I think we could get started, I guess. I'll share all of these materials and stuff like that. Put them on the GitHub, so you could go to GitHub, and if you don't have an account, it's free. You can just sign up for one. It's free. But I think it's better that you see it from my screen first before you download the materials, because there are some questions, and I answer the questions in the next slide. And if you actually download the materials already, then it's not fun. Gak seru sih, because you already know the answers if you were to go to the next page. So for that reason, I'm going to share at the end of my session, not at the beginning of my session. So I hope you don't mind. But I always share my materials anyway. So yeah, you will always be able to get them. That's right. So with that said, if you're looking at my screen now, I think we could get started. So a quick context, a quick background. Let me see if there are anyone else that I'm. Okay, a quick context, a quick background, right? It follows on my last talk about this topic, but then here I'm going to include into some code examples. We're going to do about 10-20 minutes of background, and then we're going to go into the code area. I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code. You're free to use anything you want, but it's not important to understand and to try to learn all the syntax. It's not important. That's not the main objective of the learning session. The objective is to understand the conceptual model, the mental model about how we think about building tools, right? So the mental model is the one that you want to take away, not necessarily the syntax. You're like, okay, you're typing too fast, I'm not catching up. Don't worry about the syntax. Worry about the mental model. Are you following my thought process about how I think about that and how I approach the problem, right? We're gonna touch on a few more code, and then I'm gonna hop in there. This is the part where you get to write your own code, assuming you have followed along. If not, you guys are lucky because I've got Aurelia, and I don't know if she's already in the chat, if she's already in here or not. Aurelia, are you in here? But she will be walking you through sort of a quick demo, and you will get to write the code along with her. So she's gonna guide you through that. And oh yeah, you're in there. All right. So Aurelia is gonna walk you through it, and you guys get to follow along. So you guys get to write code around this page 16, 17 area. But I'm gonna get started and discuss about the background before we start doing that. So I understand that a lot of the audience come from the HR industry, HR perspective, but I also kind of need to know a bit more about where you're from and stuff, because I want to make sure that the content is tailored to at least the majority of the audience. So I'm gonna ask you guys to do me a favor, and I'm gonna ask you to, let me stop my share right now. I'm gonna ask you to help me do a very quick survey to give me a sense of who I'm working with today. So I'm gonna share my screen right now. So this is what I need your help on. I need you to go to menti.com 1789383. So that's the code you put in. You could use your phone for that. You can use your desktop. You can use your phone. You can use your iPad. Whatever you want. Okay. So all you need to do is to go into menti.com, put in the code 1789383. Jason, you have a question. You say, can I have the Zoom permission? Yeah, feel free to request for it. That's fine. Okay. So once you're in here, I'm going to show you how to ask questions as well. There's a way I can very systematically work through all of this. So once you're in here, waiting for you guys to join. I want you to quickly help me with this. Just two questions, two very simple questions. The first question is, tell me what stage are you at in terms of your learning journey? If you're a bit more advanced, don't feel shy. Don't try to play that humility thing. All right. Just if you don't just if you're advanced, you tell me that you're advanced. Because then I know at what level do we go when we do the code demo later. Don't think too hard about that. Don't overthink it. It's a very simple question. It's not no gotcha. I just need to know who I'm working with so that I can tailor the examples to fit my audience. Okay. Right. So we're working with very even, almost very evenly distributed between the technical and the non-technical and the beginner level crowd. If you have coded for more than 4 years, you're probably not gonna get a lot of value out of it because you probably understand very fundamentally the OOP aspects of things, deploying tools and stuff like that. I'll walk you through the process of us building packages and stuff like that. I have a few experience building that. I've been doing this for quite a while. I build tools and I sell the tools. I build packages and I sell the packages. I work for companies. So for many years, I've been doing that. I've been programming in R for about 8 to 9 years now. Python about the same time. JavaScript, I've been programming that about 9 years as well. So that is kind of my main stack. And this talk itself, I try to not go too far into the more advanced constructs, but I do want to maybe shed some light about how the mental process goes into trying to develop and engineer tools software, right? Okay, so thank you for helping me in the first question. I would probably ask the second. This is the last question. Sorry for asking you so many questions. But this is the last question. So my last question is, what's your main objective? What is it that you what really brings you here, right? Are you trying to get more case studies? Are you trying to get get more value out of learning programming, or what is it that you're really in here for? Okay, this is pretty nice. Because I expect, I don't know who's the three. It's free anyway. Why not? But this is pretty nice because programming skills is definitely not a key, sort of not a key emphasis of this. I will be showing you things that require some sort of programming skills, but the main idea is to really talk to you about productizing, about combining data science with the engineering elements, engineering aspects of things, and maybe help answer questions on that. And I will use HR examples because this is a lot of the audience. You can see 29 of them came for that example, right? So we're gonna be using HR examples. So later when I talk about case study and I talk about code demo and stuff, we're gonna be doing that. And we also have, I think that's pretty much it. The rest I can maybe touch on that later. So with that said, if any time, if you want to ask me questions, you can be on here. I mean, if you're using your phone, then you can just keep your phone. You can just go into your phone and just ask questions right here. And when one heads up is that all the questions you ask, they're gonna be shown here, so everyone is gonna see the questions. So you definitely want to keep your questions short but to the point, and in a way that I can answer hopefully within 10 minutes, 5 minutes, right? So once you put your questions, it's gonna appear in here, and I will be able to answer your questions. And this is more systematic than to trying to work through all the chats. It can get very messy, and conversations can get very buried because we already have like 79 participants right now. So so a better way to do that is to put it in here because I cannot miss them there. It's gonna be here. All right. Okay, so before I do that, Jason, you have a request. Let me see how to. Do you need to request something, Jason? You need to request so I approve. I think you. Let me see if I can do this on my end. As far as I can tell, usually you have to request, and I will just have to click on the button to say accept. But let me see. I think it's here. Allow. Okay. All right. So with that said, we can get into our slides. The first 2 or 3 slides, if you've been to my other workshops, you've probably seen very similar ones, but they're only the first 2 slides. So yeah, and after that, they're gonna be different. So quick high-level agenda. What are we gonna cover? So I just did a quick survey. Thank you for helping me understand who do we have in this crowd here. I'm gonna do a quick introduction about myself. That's the trainer slide, and then we're gonna talk about building tools. We're gonna talk about what is audience of one. Building for developers, how does that differ between building for developers and building for, let's say, human and building for others, and how would that look like? Key result, building for businesses, and we talk about human resources. We go into a few apps that I've built in the past. Pedagogy and email network is two examples. So that's kind of it. So the last talk I gave was on fun to profit, data science fun to profit, and I leave you guys with this, right? I said many people want to do data science beyond just for fun or as a hobby. They want to produce work professionally, but they don't have a good set of principles to follow. And what happened after that is that the last few workshops that I've done, I've tried to focus on that area. I talk about how do you do work and put them in Jupyter Notebook, and then take that and then productize it and build a business for yourself, build an app for yourself, build a software, build a tool, whatever you want, right? But how do you making the sort of crossing the divide there between doing service-based data science work to product-based data science work? Actually, I hope I'm not speaking too fast. If I'm speaking too fast, somebody needs to slow me down. And if you have questions, just put them in Menti, and I can see the questions in here, and I will answer them. So just go to the same thing. Let me actually put the link in here because not everyone is. Menti.com and use the code 1789383. Right. So that's where you can ask your questions. You can post your questions, and I'll be able to answer your questions there. 1789383. Okay, that's correct. Okay, so a little bit about myself. So some of you may know me from Algoritma. So I'm a course producer. I'm a teacher at Algoritma. So I teach data science workshops and such. But I've not always been a teacher. I've never always been a teacher. This is kind of like 2017 onwards when I joined Algoritma and worked for Algoritma. That was my first exposure to teaching. Prior to that, I was never in that capacity. So I'm not a scholar. I'm not from that academia background. I'm more from the industrial side of things, because if you look at my employment history, I've been an entrepreneur for last 9 years now, 9 to 10 years. Prior to that, in 2002 and 2003, in 2012 and 2013 is probably my last sort of full-time job. I was working in a company called Gumi. We built games and we make games and stuff. The game was very successful. We were making about 1 million USD per day. On our good days. Some days we were making about 2 million USD per day on a good day on one game alone. And then the company grew very, very quickly. And within a year, we went IPO. We went to Japan and we IPO'd the company. So once the company have public listed, I left the company because I got another opportunity to start a consulting thing in China. So I went to China and stayed in China for about 9 months to a year. Started working with companies in China and in Japan. And then from China and Japan, what brought me next, my next destination from there was Indonesia, brought me into Indonesia. And I started a company as well during the time. We built things like software, marketing technology software, and we also built like chatbots. We were building chatbots mostly for companies like Garuda, for example. And that happened pretty quickly. And then in 2016, 2017, I decided that at the time that I wanted to go into education. Mainly to also scratch my own itch, because I was trying to find folks, hire folks, and I wasn't able to get them. So 2016, 2017, I decided to sell off that operation. I took a lot of the employees who were at my last company called Hypergrowth. I brought them along to this new company that I joined called Algoritma. And that was my first foray into teaching and education. So about last year, I started another thing called Supertype, and what it is basically a sort of a community, sort of a small private community where we learn stuff, and we do more like full stack data science stuff, and we offer that as a service to companies, and we try to focus outward. So we try to get clients from outside of Indonesia. So that's kind of it. So if you want to look for me and stuff, the best bet is on Facebook and GitHub. Or LinkedIn, I guess that's also one avenue. I'm very inactive on social media. Typically, you won't see me post anything on like Instagram or like Facebook and stuff like that. But if you saw me there, you can also talk to me and say hi and stuff. But I'm generally not very active on social media. But GitHub, I'm pretty active. Facebook, I'm pretty active. That's pretty much the two places you can find me. So that's about a little bit about me. So I've been doing software development, software entrepreneurship for quite a while now. I've built software, sold software. Help run software team, and I also sit on the consultancy on a few companies today. So you will see me go by different emails. You see me having a Algoritma email, Supertype email. You see me having an Adaro email, for example. So and I quite active in that space, helping build, run, and mentor dev teams. Okay. So what brought us to this talk was, and this is something that maybe, again, you've probably seen this slide before, but what brought us to this talk was, when you think about the work we do as data scientists, when we're in the field of data science, Generally speaking, we can categorize data science into two types, right? The first one is service-based. I call them service-based data science. And the other category, I call them product-based data science. So service-based data science is what a lot of programming schools, boot camps, and tutorials and courses they're going to teach you. What they try to teach you is how to create data science and provide that as a service. Data analysis is one example of that. So you run some code, you put them into a Jupyter Notebook or Google Colab or RStudio, and you try to offer that as a service. You're trying to say that, hey, I can do some analysis for you. Would you hire me? There are companies who hire this kind of data analysis. For example, if you go and talk to, let's say, BCA, BCA, right? You see that there are a whole floor of data scientists, data analysts. Do they actually have to build tools for BCA? No. Do they have to engineer new software? No. Do they have to create databases and do pipelines and stuff? No. But they are very gainfully employed, happily employed. Why? Because they are able to come up with good, strong analysis. So service-based data science is where you get to, this is a very easy threshold, very, very low barrier to entry. A lot of people, if you're committed to it, you can go online and you can find free resources that teaches you almost everything you need to know. You learn a bit of algebra, learn a bit of statistics, learn a bit of mathematics, and you will be able to get quite far doing service-based data analysis. And this is where a lot of bootcamps are focused on. Now, the second group of data science work, I think of it as product-based data science, right? And here, the focus is really on creating software and tools and stuff like that. This one, you don't see a lot of programming bootcamps. You don't see a lot of schools. You don't see a lot of like tutorials or courses. And if you did see anything like that, you will always, can I zoom in? Sorry for that. I should have done that long time ago. This is fine. Is this better? Sorry for that. Okay. Okay, so there are questions already. So keep the questions coming. I will stop every 5 to 10 slides and I will go to the Menti and I'll look at your questions and I'll answer your questions. But I'll do that every 5 to 10 pages. All right. So product-based data science, you will not find a lot of, this is a much higher threshold. But the problem is every time you see courses that teach you product-based, it's almost always existing cloud software infrastructure vendors that try to evangelize a certain tool. So you're asking to make a product because, let's say, Neo4j is asking you to make a product, and the whole there's nothing wrong with that, right? Because a lot of that is still good value, very high value. But there will always be the lingering fear of incentive problem. They will always have the inherent bias to want to promote the tool they evangelize and not to give you the objective is, ideally in a proper education institution, the objective is to make sure you learn the best tool for the best job, learn the right tool for the right job, and make sure that you're at the center of that decision, right? But when you go and learn from like tools and infrastructure and stuff like that, there's always that small bias where they nudge you towards their own ecosystem. You know what I mean? There's always that small lingering fear. And this is okay because this is part of how they create value for themselves as well. Because why do they end up doing all of this work when they don't get to reap the benefits, right? So there is always that. And it's not always easy to distinguish them. So a lot of time you will learn a tool and then you realize that, hey, if I get away from Microsoft ecosystem, I don't know how to build any of this anymore because I'm only learning on that stack, right? So that's kind of a sort of a gray area. So what we do as a company in Algoritma, for example, is that we always disclose our relationship and we never take commission from any vendor. So there's a lot of training providers who would take commission happily to push a product. We never do that, okay? And we never do that just on the ethical grounds of it. Is that we don't want to have any kind of conflating any kind of incentive dilemma that we don't want to have to even work with. We don't even want to get into the gray area and then talk about that. We just stray away from that. So straight up, I have no incentive, I have no commission, and straight up, I just gonna disclose to you, I have no affiliation. I don't take money from any of these companies, right? So if I were to recommend you a tool and I'm using something, it's because I really feel like that was the best tool you can use for your learning journey right now. So later when I use like Visual Studio Code and stuff like that, I'm not evangelizing for anything. Okay, but then there exists a little bit. This is kind of the last slide where I talk about the difference. So if you've already seen this before, just bear with me a bit. But sort of the last thing I want to talk about here is there is always that tension between writing code for data analysis for service-based versus for product-based. And I'll talk about some of these examples when we get into the code section later. So if your foray into programming was running code in code notebooks like Jupyter Notebook, Google Colab, RStudio Notebook, R Markdown, when I say this, I said that if this is the first time you ever done programming and you're going into this with, learning this from your instructor, you may think that writing code like that, cell by cell, is how most developers write code. But the truth is, it's not. Developers don't actually write code like that. So if you want to create value, you need to write code for others. So this is kind of what I like to use this term. I said audience of one. A lot of times when you come into data science or come into programming, when you first learn how to write data science and stuff, code and stuff, Python, R, you're very used to thinking that that's the way you write code. And you are very not used to the idea that there are more people who can use your code than yourself, because all the analysis that you do, you're the only audience. Because when you sit down with your boss and stuff, you're going to flip around your laptop. You say, boss, this is my report. This is what I did. This is my analysis. This is a nice plot, ggplot. And that's it. Your boss is not going to say, hey, look, I want you to package that up because I want to use them as well. Your boss is not going to say that. So for a long time, there is a misconception. You feel like, hey, surely if this is the way I learn how to write code, and this is how I see my instructor write code on a stage, surely this is how all developers write code. Well, the answer is no. And the answer is that you're mistaken. This is not how developers write code. So one way to get out of that is to start having customers, unique customers, and you get paid a lot of money for having customers, right? Many coders in the data science domain never had a customer because the only person reading using that code is themselves, okay? So in majority of the case, the only thing that matters is the result you're returning in the last cell. So you run a cell from top to bottom, and then in the last cell, you return a value. That's the only thing that matters. You don't have to worry about how people are going to use your code, right? And that is not always a good thing. So with that said, I'm going to now shift into my code now, and I'm going to sort of show you the example of that. So we're going to use a simple example. We're going to try and create a simple tool for developers in the HR industry. And our tool basically allows people to come into our platform, register as an employer, and they can create compensation package, and they will list that. And so anyone who want to find a company, they can type in, like, for example, I want to find salary above this or insurance benefit, and I can filter all the employees with that benefit. So it's kind of like a matchmaking platform. But I'm going to simplify the example based on the survey that I see. Not a lot of you are programmers, so this part may be very boring, maybe very dry. So I hope that you still stay with me and bear with me for a bit. But I'm going to spend about 30 to 40 minutes sort of explaining to you the thought process here, and you will see this is so different from how you used to think about code as a data scientist. If you come from the kind of formal education, if you go to like 3 years to study data science and graduate, this is definitely not how I write code at all. So you see a very stark contrast, and I'll try to peel that away from you layer by layer and try to explain to you my mental process, and then I'll start to take questions later on, okay? So just bear with me. If this part is very, very boring, well, I guess the last resort, if you cannot put yourself through that kind of 40 minutes of labor, then just mute me and go and get some drinks or something, go and rest a bit, and then come back at the end of 40 minutes. But if you can actually put yourself through that, I strongly encourage you to stay on, and you don't have to worry about the syntax, but look at the mental model of how we do this together, right? So let me stop my share right now and move into my code editor. So let me move into my code editor. And let me go ahead and say share screen, build for HR, share. Okay. So what I just did was I opened up a brand new fresh version of Visual Studio Code. And so I don't have anything in here right now, like it's completely empty. And if you have never done this before and you wonder what this tool is, then I'll put the name in here and you can go ahead and I guess install that maybe during the break later. I'm going to give you a 10 to 15 minutes break. But if you don't want to worry about that, you don't have to. But I'm going to tell you that all the code examples and stuff like that, again, like I said, it's all going to be available to you right at the end of the session. So if you want to stay on, and you want to if you want to stay on and sort of follow through, you can. If you want to open up your Visual Studio Code and sort of do it with me, that you also can, right? But that's up to you. So now I'm going to start off by very simply creating a simple file. And in Python, we create a file, and that's how we run our script, right? We're not going to create any notebooks today. So what I'm going to do today is that I'm going to create a class. I'm going to create this. I'm going to call dev.py. And so dev.py is just an empty file, just like any, if you open up with a text editor, you can open that up and save it, and it would that would be it. I'm also gonna, before I do anything, I'm gonna just move this in. Hold on, let me move. I'm gonna clean out everything. I'm in the desktop right now, so you can go anywhere you want. And if I list my file, I should see dev.py. That confirms that I just created my dev.py. And we're gonna do something really simple. In fact, I'm gonna just actually name it dev0.py. Okay, so we're gonna do something really simple. Remember the example that I said? What do we say? We say we want to create a we want to allow people to create an employer on our platform. So how do we represent that? Now, Python is a very object-oriented programming language. So when we want to allow people to create employers, we can actually just go ahead and create a class that's really, really straightforward. We say class employer. And what we do is we can actually say create an employer class. And here we say this is storing information of each employer. Okay. And then finally, we go ahead and we don't do anything in this class right now. We don't have to worry about that. We just say pass. Okay. So if let's say you work in two companies, or let's say we have a few people signing up to our platform, we're starting to go out there, people start to use our platform. We have the first employer, and the first employer, let's say we use DBS. Let's use banks here. So we say employer. This is how they create one instance of employer. Let me actually go and turn off my, because if not, my Copilot is gonna try and disable that right now. Okay, reload that. It's gonna try and complete everything before I even write out the answers and stuff. We're gonna do the same thing here. I'm gonna call ULB, for example. So I'm gonna say ULB. We can go ahead and do a few more. This one is called probably BHR. And this one is probably Mandiri. And this one is probably Barry. Okay. So there is really nothing fancy about this idea, but we can go ahead and now actually start to say, store information to each one of them. So for example, I get to say something like dbs.employees, and I can put the number of employees in here. I can say BHR number of employees. I can put 300 in here, and I can save them. And if I were to run it, all I need to do is to go down to my terminal and I say Python, and I can say dev0.py, right? To put them into iterative mode, I can just put a dev, put a -i, and I said dev0.py. So when I do that, I'm going to get in here. If I print DBS, I'm going to say the DBS employee object. And if I print out the employees, I should see 300. So really, this is very straightforward. There's no complication in here. It's a very, very straightforward setup of trying to get, trying to show you an instance of creating a class. So really the magic is this is the recipe. So what we're doing here is we're implementing a protocol, implementing a class. And here we're just creating instances of that class because DBS, we create an employer, UOB, BHR, Mandiri, BRE, right? Now, this is your first step into sort of, I guess, OOP in a way, right? Creating objects and using that. Now, but if I were to print DBS, I see this very ugly string in here. It says main employer at, let me zoom in a few more so you can see that. Can you guys see my screen clearly? If I zoom in like that, is this better? Can you see this clearly? If anyone is having trouble with, no one? Okay, so remember, if I do a print DBS, look, it's very ugly because it doesn't actually have anything in here. It's just telling me that it's an instance of employer object, but it's giving me the main because it doesn't find the string. So how do I make this better? Now I'm gonna just remove all of this. I don't really need all of that, right? So how do I make this better? How do I make this print statement a little bit prettier? I implement a behavior. I implement some sort of prototype here. So in this case here, to make the print look better, what I can do is I can say implement a representation. REPR stands for representation. So REPR representation, that's basically what you use to represent that, right? And I'm gonna just say, take away this pass, and I'm gonna just say return, and I can return anything I want, but I'm gonna return employer with number of employees, like that. And in this area, I want to put a curly bracket and I want to say print the number of employees. So how would I do that? I'll say tick self dot number of employees. But do I have the attribute? I don't have the attribute. So how do I incorporate attribute? Well, I just have to say when it initialize, do this certain thing. So I say init. What init does is that when it initialize, it gets to run one time. So it gets to run on initialization. So when you create something like that, it initializes the class and it does something in there, right? And what are we doing in here? We're saying that bind the number of employees, because this is what I name it. So I'm going to copy, paste that in, and I'm going to bind that with what? I'm going to say bind that with a parameter. And the parameter could be anything, but I'm going to call it number of employees. So I'm going to say this. So what this is doing is that every time I create an employer, I can put the numbers in there like this. So now, instead of writing code like that, I could write code much simpler. I can say employer, put 300, and that 300 is going to be passed into number of employees, which will be bind here. So let's take a look at how that works. So quit that and run that again. It says, now we're missing the number of employees because this one doesn't have one. Okay, so this is doing what we need to do. So let's go ahead and change this to 400. And if we go back to our terminal and run that, now let's clean out all of that. Oops, I can just do a control clear. Okay, it's not responding to that keyword, but don't worry, I guess. So, yeah, don't worry about that. But anyway, okay, now it's done. So I can now check DBS, and it says DBS 300 employees. So I actually need to put a space between that, right? So let's quit that again. Let's do that again. And now if I print DBS, it says DBS 300 employees. And if I say UOB, it says UOB 400 employees. So this is good because what it does is that it now take 400 and it bind it towards a variable. Here you can name it anything. Honestly, you can name it num if you want to. If you can type num, that would still work. But I like to just be explicit and just be clear. I don't mind a bit of typing. So that's kind of what we do. Now recognize this mental model for a bit, because what we're trying to do here is I'm trying to show you when you create tools and stuff like that, what you did was you sort of think of, okay, what is the limitation here? And then you implement some sort of protocol to solve that limitation. So first, for example, when I first started writing it and I do a print, I get something very ugly. I get this result. This is not informative at all. To anyone who is looking at the code, this is not very informative because I'm not going to be able to tell what is the main, what is the employer object, what does it even, it's not really helpful. So I can actually change this behavior of the print statement, and I changed that to something that could be more, maybe a bit more representative. So in this case here, I want to, instead of doing that, I can print the number. So I can do the same thing here. I can say, what if I just want to go ahead and say print company name? And now I can just change that to, I can take a parameter name and I can set that to name. And then what I can do is I can say employer. And again, I can put a curly bracket. And then now all I need to do is to put self.company name like that. And if I were to do this, all I need to do is to add, this is Development Bank of Singapore. And here, United Overseas Bank, right? And if I were to go down here, quit out all of this, run it again, and if I were to print DBS, you will see employer is Development Bank of Singapore, 300 employees. And if I print UOB, United Overseas Bank. So what it does is that it takes that, it put them into that. So this is kind of the simple mental model. There's really nothing complicated here. But now let's actually up it one level above. Okay, so let's go ahead, delete all of this. We don't need that anymore. Let's go ahead and say, okay, now I create an employer. Remember, in my platform, employer can come in there and they can create different packages. So they can say, well, we're hiring for this role and this is the package, right? So I want to create another object for people to be able to represent that on the front end. So your front end guy is going to be a designer guy, is going to create a, a nice UI for that. But how does that look on the back end? Well, you create a package object. So you create a package, sort of like a prototype, a package prototype, and you implement some sort of things in there, right? So how would that look like when somebody have to create a package? Now they would look like that. We'll say package one, and I'm going to say packages. Let's say we have something very simple. We have the base salary of a package, and then we have, let's say, what do we have in a package usually? Insurance, I guess. Annual insurance. And let's say we have a year-end bonus. Some company likes to give you year-end bonus. And let's keep it simple, just 3 figures there, right? So how would you implement this in a package function? So you know that you have to use the init there. You know that already. So you would need a certain init here to initialize to this functionality. So let's go ahead and just implement that first. So let's say define init. Let's do that. And what do we take? We take the monthly salary. So let's put in monthly. It takes the insurance. So let's put in that insurance. And we take year-end bonus. I don't know what you want to call it. Maybe a one-time bonus, year-end or one-time bonus. But let's keep it simple and just call it year-end bonus, all right? And what we do here is to bind those figures into the object itself. So what we need to do is to say itself monthly. We can call it monthly salary, and that would just be monthly. And then we can say self.insurance. Let's say annual. That would just be insurance. And finally, let's say self.year-end bonus, and that would just be year-end. Okay, really straightforward. Let's go ahead and create a figure. So I don't know how much you want to get paid. 6 million, let's say. The first package is a 6 million package. So 6 million base salary. And let's say no insurance. And let's say 300,000 or 3 million one-time bonus. So if you were to stay to the end of the company, maybe in THR, you get paid like, you know, some extra money in there. Let's go create another package. This one, we give it maybe 5 million. Let's give it some insurance. Let's say 1 million insurance. And let's give it, I don't know, 5 million year-end bonus. So off the bat, if you want to very quickly compare these two packages, which one is more attractive? Let's say they offer the exact same role, exact same company, same environment, same team, but I'm asking you to pick one package. One is a 6 mil salary. Every month you get 6 juta, and you get no insurance, but you get a 3 million bonus at the end of the year. The other one is a 5 million monthly salary, so slightly lower than the first one, but you do get a 1 million insurance for anything that needs to cover, and then you get a 5 million bonus. Which one do you think is more attractive, package 1 or package 2? I mean, there's no real correct answer in here, so it's just more like a personal opinion. But what do you guys think? Which one is more attractive to you personally? Package 2 is more attractive. Silva say 2, Bagus say 2, Didin say 2, Rexy say 2. So far, okay, right. So you said you're gonna let go of the extra 1 million you can make per month, but you're gonna get more insurance and you get a year-end bonus. Actually, not everyone say 2. There is also Aziz just said package 1. So maybe opinions differ here. So when we create tools like that, we ask questions like that. We say, can we maybe create something to maybe make this process a bit easier, and allow them to sort of make this comparison a little bit easier for people on our platform. So when they come in there, they can actually see a total value for all of this. So we can maybe sum the values up. We can take this one. The formula would be really simple. Formula would be something like, the formula will be the monthly salary times 12, because that would be 12 months, plus plus insurance, sorry, and plus the year-end bonus, because it's a one-time year-end bonus. So that would be the formula. And you can maybe do a quick arithmetic here and see which one comes out to be higher. But for now, we don't really have to worry about that. But that is something we can do, and we probably will do later. Okay. But right now, let's also go ahead and implement a simple representation, because if we were to save it, quit it right now, if I type package 1, again, that ugly thing comes up again. The ugly thing comes up again. I don't really understand. It tells you this is the address that is sitting on. There is a package object, but not really very useful. So how do we make this a bit better? We change the representation as well, right? So I want to reinforce this whole mental model of like, you're looking at things in here and you're trying to implement protocols, implement behaviors to your objects, so that the user of your object actually, it's a more developer-friendly tool to work with, right? So let's go ahead and do that. And I'll show you a few more examples later on, but let's go ahead and do that real quick. So I know that we've done representation before, because we've done it here before. So what I want to do is to just return. And again, I'm going to use the f-string. F-string is only in 3.6 and above. If you use Python 3.5, you need to upgrade. If not, you'll be fine. I'm going to say package, and I'm going to give some values here. I'm going to say monthly salary, and here I'm going to try to implement it using the curly bracket, and I'm going to say self.monthly salary, and I would also maybe put in insurance. And again, I'm going to say insurance. Let's actually tap this down. Let's say slash. If you don't mind typing the whole thing, you can also just forget about that and just type the whole thing out. That's fine too. Let's put insurance, and we're gonna put self.insurance annual. Let's say that's good enough. We don't care about the year bonus for now, right? So let's go ahead and do that. Quit that now. Run it again, and if I type package 1, what do I get? I get a nice print that gives me exactly what I need to know right here. So now immediately you make your objects a little bit more useful to whoever is using it, right? A little bit more useful. Another thing I want to sort of maybe talk about is this kind of behavior of like, okay, how do you imagine people are going to use the packages, right? For example, if I go in right now and I do something like package one plus package two, what do you expect I get? What do you think I should get here? If I do a package one plus package two, what do you expect I get? Before I run the code, I'm going to run the code for you. But before I do that, what do you think I should be getting right now? If I say do a sum of the package, you would expect that, right? You would expect that, okay, it would be the sum of each of the component, the sum of the base salary. So if let's say somebody said, well, I'm going to offer you both the packages, I'm going to give you this plus this, you would expect that behavior. Now let's see what did our code do. Does it give us that behavior? So let's go and do that, right? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say, press enter. And what does it say? It says that your object package, they do not support the plus operand. So it says a type error. This is what I get. I'm going to print it out for you so you can see it better, all clean, clear. And this is important. Again, I said the main objective is not to learn the syntax here, but to learn how we start to develop tools. And this is important because later when you see the projects that we create and stuff like that, it follows a very similar pattern. When you want to create an email tool, all of this will be email packages. If you want to create an employer tool, all of this will be employer. And you can create something called a company, for example. You can create a company, you can create employee, you can do all of this, but you need to first fundamentally understand what Python actually allows you to do and what does it actually do. So you need to even understand that on that level before you start to move into all the fancy stuff there, right? So stay with me a bit here. But you see that it says here, it complains that, hey, this object is a package class. This object is also a package class, and I do not know what to do with these two types. So a package type plus a package type, what do we do? Not sure. Why? Because it's unsupported. So unsupported, whose responsibility is this? Is it Python's responsibility? No, Python's responsibility is to tell us what happened here. So who's the responsibility? The developer. It's our responsibility, right? So what do we do here? We support that. If it's unsupported right now, what do? We support that. How do we support that? Well, we implement the adding class. So if I say package plus 1 plus 2, it doesn't work. If I say package 2 plus package 1, it doesn't work. See, package 2 plus package 1, package 2 plus package 2 doesn't work, right? So how do we change this behavior? We create a add operator. So let's do that right now. And okay, when you do an add, it does two things. First thing is it takes the self. So if I say package 1 plus package 2, then package 1 will be the self, but it also needs something else. And what does it do? It needs the other package. Okay, it needs the other package. And what does it return? It returns a new package. So it returns a new package. And how do we do this? We said we return a package. Okay, that's it. We return a package. So when we return a package, I didn't spell it correctly. It's packages, I think, because the name is packages. Okay, so when we return a package, now this will work. This is not supported now. Now, all of a sudden, if you do package 1 plus package 2, all of a sudden it works now. Why? Because you just support it by adding the add class method to it, right? But here, what makes sense in the package? If you don't put anything, it may work, but it won't give you the right result. So what do you expect? You expect to take the self monthly package, monthly salary plus other monthly salary, and you expect to get self insurance annual plus other dot insurance annual. And finally, you expect to get, you get the self dot year-end bonus plus other year-end bonus. Let's go ahead and save all of that and let's test it out. Okay, so now we go back to our customer. So again, our customer is paying you money. Okay, clear the screen. Again, your customer is paying you money to implement all of this. This is the tools you provide so that somebody can go in there and create tools for the HR industry. So there are two layers here. The first one is you as the developer to develop tools for other people, for your data scientists on the team. So your data scientists on the team, they don't have to worry about all of this because whatever they expect to work, when I asked the question, you see like Didin, Dimas, Nisa, they said, oh, well, that's an expected behavior. For a data scientist, from a data analyst, that's what they expect. So let's implement that so that our data analysts on our team can actually use the behavior, right? So let's go in now and actually say Python i-0.py, and let's go ahead and create our package 1 now. This is what it looks like. What about package 2? This is what it looks like. Now, can I take package 1 plus package 2? Now it's supported. Now it returns a new package with the better salary of 11 mil and the 1 mil insurance. So what just happened here is that initially we see that, okay, the analysts expect that behavior. It wasn't implemented. It doesn't have that behavior. What do? We implement that, right? So when we implement that, we get into this, and you see all of this starts from a double underscore. They're not a single underscore, they're a double underscore. This is something I'll explain a little bit later, but for now you don't have to worry about the syntax, mainly to understand the mental model of what happens when I want to show you later on when you do something like import pandas as PD and stuff, you know, something we take for granted, and you say something like pd.head. What actually happened with pd.head is that somebody implement that function for you. You know, it's that it's not a magical thing. It's not a magical. It's not that there's no magic happening here. Somebody have to implement that for you. And when every time you take something like 3 plus 2, what happened is somebody have to implement that plus for you, right? You can also say, what if I want to implement a company? So right now, if I do an employer, like if I say DBS plus UOB, it doesn't make sense. Nothing happened here. It says not supported because I did not add that feature in here yet. I haven't supported that yet. But at some point, if you think that, oh, I should support that, well, you can. So everything that happened in NumPy, in Pandas, all the things that you do here, you take it for granted because somebody did all the hard work of creating all of this logic so that somebody could just go in there and quickly get the same results. So I'll show you one more example. So for example, if I want to create a package, I can also say something like implement a new. Let's implement the same thing, but instead of the add, I'm going to implement it as a custom function itself, my own function. I'm going to say add to package. I'm going to say self to other again, exact same thing up there. And what am I going to return? I'm also going to return a package, a new package. So what is this doing? What this line is doing is saying that when you do this behavior, you expect the output to be a package. So when I add package 1 and package 2, the output of that would still be a package. That's what I'm saying. Okay. For now, we're going to try and see return package, but I'm not going to copy and paste all the same thing because that wouldn't be fun. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and use something smart. We're going to say unpack, and we say x bar y, and for x, y in, and we're going to zip what? Zip the self, take all the arguments in self, and take other, and take all the arguments in arguments. And that's it. And this is actually the same thing as here. So here I'm saying that take the arguments, so which is argument 1, argument 2, argument 3, take that, take the other argument 1, argument 2, argument 3, and zip them together, and then iterate through that and x plus y. So this plus this, this plus this, this plus this. So let's go ahead, quick, and let's go ahead real quick, run that again, and let's go ahead and say package 1. And instead of actually doing the plus 1 again, now I'm going to say add to package. I'm going to say package 2. Whoops. It says what packages object has no attribute. So let's go ahead and see what did we do wrong here. Let's see. There is the packages here. There is the feed. There is arguments. This is packages. Object has no attribute args. Return packages for x, y in zip self args. Okay, this is fine. I don't see there's any. Maybe I did not save it. Let's try that again. Okay, let's find this missing one. Okay, let's coding in doing this debugging in real time. Return packages. Within that, we say take that x plus y for x, y in zip. This is correct. Self.args. This is the self. Other.args. This is the args. Return that. So define add to package. And then there is the packages. This is package 1. This is package 2. What and if? Let's go ahead and actually, instead of return, let's go ahead and actually just print that out and see what's happening here. Let's print self.args. So a very quick way to troubleshoot, and I'm glad I get that error because then I can show you how I usually troubleshoot code really quickly, is I just go and do a print statement, and I do this, and I add the package, and I add package 2, and I see what I get printed out on the screen. Okay, it says packages object have no args. And I kind of think, did I run the code correctly? Add to package. Package one here dot add to package has no attribute args. Well, then in that case, we don't. What is the args? The args should refer to all of this. These are the arguments. So args stands for arguments. So args stands for arguments. So these are my arguments when I created that. If I say package one, if I just take this code and I paste it in here and I say package one dot args, okay, this is where I get an error because it doesn't have that. So maybe a different version, because this has always worked. So it's strange that it doesn't. What if I do args? No, definitely not args. I'm gonna have to find the args somewhere in here. Nope, it doesn't have that. So that is why it doesn't have. That's why it's complaining. Okay, that's fine. But we can move on to the example. But here is kind of how you would do it. So in a way, you instead of doing this fancy stuff, I thought I could save some typing. But then you can copy that. So you don't get to write the fancy code that I just showed you, but you have to write the same thing, and still you can do the same thing. So DBS add to package, and now it will still work because you're doing exactly what you expect to do. Not DBS, sorry. Maybe there was a problem. No, I definitely did type package one, right? So package one, and I say add to package, and I say package two in here, and add to packages. Okay, I did not spell it correctly. I should spell it add to package, not add to packages. Okay, now it works. So very similar idea to the first one, but you can also implement a own function like that. But what you do is that you guarantee that if you were to call the add, you still return a valid package. So everything that you expect to do with a package, you should. This one, if you do it, let me put this in typing. When I said package one plus package two, in the way that we implement it, we guarantee that the result of this, we want to guarantee that assert that package three is an instance of package, meaning we want to guarantee something. We want to guarantee that if you were to do the math, package one plus package two, you should still get the result, and the result should still be a package. So that's kind of what we do here. Okay, so far that's kind of what we get. So where we get to. And now let me maybe pause here a bit because we just went through a lot of things here. But is there any questions so far? Okay, let's go ahead and say, what if we want to have some interaction between the company and the package? Because right now it has no interaction. So I want to say, for example, I expect to be able to do something like, I'm gonna maybe not have the add to package. Well, I can keep that, no problem. But I want to be able to do something like that. I want to be able to say something like, take the employer and let's say add a package. So I want to say that this is my employer. My employer, I add this compensation package, this salary package onto the employer. So basically the company now have that, you can see that, okay, if I want to join DBS, what are the packages that are on offer as a developer? And you can see the different packages. And in this case here, when I do a DBS plus package one, this will throw me an error right now. Let me actually prove that to you first before I go any further. If I try to do DBS plus package one, I would get an error. Why? Because it doesn't know what to do. See that? It says unsupported type between employer and packages. So when you try and take a package plus a package, it accepts that. But it says, hey, but if you're trying to take an employer and you add a package to that, what does that even mean, right? So now, again, we have to sort of zoom out and think about the data science and the data analysts on our team. Now, what are they trying to do when they do something like that? What are they trying to do is they try to take this package and they try to add that onto the company. So I'm trying to say, create a package and tie this onto the platform to DBS as a company. So anyone who is trying to browse for jobs, trying to look for jobs, going to DBS platform, they will see all the different packages and a different job posting. But so I want to imagine like DBS plus job listing one, and I want to be able to do something like DBS plus packages or compensation one. I want to be able to do that, but I'm not getting that result right now. I'm not getting that result. Why? Because it's not supported yet. So how do we do this? Maybe anyone have some thoughts to how we can implement that? I want to be able to say something like DBS plus package 1, and it should not fail. It should not fail. It should be able to do exactly what I need it to do. But anyone have some idea about how you would implement that? Right now, it would fail. It would say that, okay, I cannot add a company. I cannot add an employer to a package. But how do I, anyone have some conceptual idea? I won't ask you to write the code, but conceptually, what is a reasonable thing to do here? And I kind of think I know how to solve that earlier problem already, actually. I think the main idea was the args doesn't exist, but we can create that. The args doesn't exist, but we can create that. And all we need to do is to just go in here, silly of me, but we can just create that. So we can just do something very, very simple, very, very basic, and say, take the money, take the insurance, and take the year-end bonus. And so in this case here, it would go from, not this one, sorry, but up here, like this. So it would take the money insurance, and now it would have the args, because just now it was complaining that it doesn't have the args. I can just add an args and just force it to have one, and now it should work. Quit that, and oops. Go in here, and let me clear the screen real quick. And if I take package 1 plus add, not add to package, and I put package 2. Now it works. So because it was complaining stuff to args, I assumed that it would pick up this stuff in here, but it doesn't. So what I did was I just went in to implement it. So kind of this is the nice thing about Python. You see that was stuck a little bit because I assumed that was there. I don't know why I assumed it was there. Maybe because I was used to writing in another programming language that would pass that in as args. I could have done it with the keyword arg as well, like args, like that, but no. So what I did was I just create an attribute and I said args, and I just passed in all the different args here. So in a way, I just sort of make sure that enforce that, and I just do my zip, and now it works. Same thing in here. If I take package 2, add to package 1, and change that to package 1, it also works. So that's all good. Right? So I kind of, I mean, I sort of have a brain fart there and didn't really think about that. Okay, but now I'm asking you a question of like, how would you allow package 1 to be added to DBS? What is a reasonable sort of thing to be doing here? And what if I want to make the question a little bit more harder? I want to say something like this. I want to say that if you take DBS plus package 1, this should work. But this should not work. If you take package 1 plus DBS and then you add DBS, this should not work. What if I want to make the question a little bit harder? I mean, just now that was a hard enough question, but and again, don't worry about copying all this stuff, okay? I'm going to put them on GitHub. You can copy them anyway. So, but I just want you to think about this a little bit. I want to say this makes sense because this makes sense. The example here is that I'm taking the company, I'm adding a package onto the company, but it doesn't make sense to take a company to add the company onto a package. It only makes sense when it goes this direction and not this other direction. How would you implement that? Is there something that we can think about to implement it? Do you think Python will allow us to do something like that, where addition is commutative, right? We understand that in mathematics, addition is commutative. So A plus B is the same as B plus A. There are other things that are commutative, but this is one of them. But is there a way where we can do something like, okay, if you take DBS as a company, you add a package onto that, it makes sense, but not the other way around? Can we implement something like that? Think about the question, and let's see how we would do that, right? Now, it turns out there is also a function to do that. There is also a class method to do that. And the way to do that is to use something called the radd, the write add. So let me go ahead here and show you what it means by that. So I can say radd. So that is very similar to add, very, very similar in that it also has the add function and stuff. But now I'm going to say the other class have to be an employer. Okay, the other class have to be employer. What do you return? You return, I don't know, you can return none, you can return packages, up to you. But now the first class, the first one itself, that has to be a package, but the other one have to be an employer. And what we do is we can say something like, what we want to do is we want to say something like, where is my arc? Okay, here, all right. So what I want to do is I want to say something like, maybe check that the other class is an employer. If not, don't even allow that behavior to happen. Okay, so if this is not if the other class is not an employer class, don't even allow that to happen. So I'm going to say a quick assert, showing you what I've shown you earlier. I said is instance, check that the other class is instance, not instance, is instance. Check that the other one here is a, I don't need a bracket here. Check is instance employer. If that is true, then continue to proceed. If not, then this will throw an error. Okay, this is a very good question, Jason. Do Python have type safety? So Python is not a type safety language. It's not a strictly typing language. So you do need to have some sort of like check like that, right? So that is why I'm doing. This is actually called a type hint, but a type hint is not a guarantee. It doesn't enforce anything. It just gives you a hint. It gives you a hint so that later on when you do something like package, and you say add to package, like that, package 1, and you say add to package. You see, it gave you a few hints like that, but it doesn't actually enforce that. So in a way, the short answer is that it doesn't enforce anything, right? But in this case here, let's go and continue on this one. It says assert. So if this one fail, it will throw an error and the user will not continue. All right. But let's say the user continue. So what am I gonna do? I'm gonna say maybe take the other employer class, and go into the packages attribute and add that. So now I need to go and create the attribute. So in the company itself, I want to say self.packages. So each company have multiple packages. They also have multiple job posting. Self.job posting, and self.advertisement. So let's say our platform also allow them to create advertisement. Each one of them would be an array. So user can add more job posting to an employer class. User can add more advertisement to get more recruitment, get more people trying to apply for the job. And finally, user can also create more packages, so salary packages and stuff like that, and put them into a employer class. So these are all the 3 different attributes, and all of them should be in this case we call a list in Python, but in the case of JavaScript it will be an array, okay? Or in the case of other languages it will be an array. In this case here it is a list. So all of these 3 will be a list. And what we do is that we said out of these 3, which one should we append to? We should append to the packages. So we're gonna say, if this is true, then take other packages append. If you want to return, you can return. If you don't want to, you can return nothing. So I'm going to just say return other.packages. So in this case, I'm actually going to return a list. So you can also not have this actually, just to save some typing in here, like that. If I were to go ahead now, save it, run it again, it has employer object has no monthly salary. Okay, because of this one should not work. So let's comment that out. Good. Let's quit that. Let's go and do that. Okay. Let's go ahead and say DBS plus package 1. And now if we check for DBS, it still looks okay. But let's go ahead and say DBS.job posting. Well, it's still an empty job posting. There's still no job posting. That's good. That's what we want. What about advertisement? Nothing. That's also good. That's exactly what we want. But what about packages? We don't expect them to be empty anymore. We expect 1 package. We added that package onto that, right? In here, we added twice because here I also added this one, right? So I should actually comment this one out instead, but okay, that's fine. So what if I go ahead and say DBS what if I go ahead and say DBS plus, now I add package 2 as well. Now, if I show you DBS.packages, I see that both the packages have been added onto this attribute. So this is kind of how you implement functionalities. And so just now I gave you a pretty hard question. I asked you the question of like, what if you want to do something like DBS plus package 1? It should work because you're adding, this is the same thing as if you want to add like DBS plus job ads 1, that should also work, but not the other way around. This should not work. So this should not work is something like here. Job ads 1 plus DBS, that should not work. Similarly, job ads 1 plus job ads 2, that should also not work, right? Because you didn't implement those functionality. So that is kind of how I want you to think about problems. I want you to think about how you would implement solutions and why do you have, when you open up a package, you see all of this crazy stuff in there. What is happening here is that when you're developing for the user, for the analyst, or for the data scientist, they're not going to have to worry about any of this stuff. They just have to worry about, can I do this? Is this allowed? And how do they find out if that is allowed? They look at your documentation. They look at how you document your code, and they say, okay, is that allowed? If that is allowed, then they can do that, but not the other way around. So if I were to take package 1 plus DBS, it's going to throw a attribute error. So this is perfect. This give me exactly what I want earlier, which is that I can add from DBS plus package 1. I cannot do the opposite. Okay. So far, is there any question so far? The type safety question I've answered already, but what about is there any other question? If there's no other question, let me go ahead and do something. What if I also imagine my analyst, my data scientist and my analyst would do something very commonly, like equality. So for example, I'm going to create a package tree here, right? I'm going to create a package tree, and I want to have this, have similar attributes, but I want to have this, and I want to swap these things around. Let's say instead of this, I'm going to put year-end bonus. I want to put that to be exactly the same amount as package 1. And then I want to have my insurance to be 0. Now, the analyst or the data scientist is going to expect to do something like this. Very common. You will see a lot of times you do data science code, you'll see something like that. What do you expect as a data scientist or data analyst? What do you expect here? If I were to implement this right now, what do you expect? Is this going to be true or is this going to be false? Do you expect a true or do you expect a false? If I check for package 1 equals package 3, what do you expect? Are they the same? Oh wait, of course they're not the same because I didn't put 6 million here. Okay, sorry for that stain. Fix that already. Are they the same? Equal checks is not the object address. Object address would be something like is. So you would use the is keyword, but for now, we're not doing that. But do you think they're equal? The question is package 1 equal to package 3? So if that's the case, in other words, if I would do package 1 equal package 3, what do you expect? Do I see a true or do I see a false? Okay, some say true, some say false, but a lot of you would say something like equal or true. And the reason for that is you know that that's true because here I'm doing exactly the same thing. I'm just changing the names. I'm just, instead of doing insurance, like I'm just changing this up like that. Right? So what do you guys think? It should be true, right? But let me go ahead and run my code. Package 1 equals package 3. What do I get? Oh, package 3 is not defined. So go ahead. Let's create that. It says false. Now, why is that? Let me run that again. Clear my screen. Package 1 equals package 3. It says false. Now, again, whose fault is this? Is it Python or is it the developer? The guys who build you the tools. Because you're the data scientist, you don't care about all this logic. You care about using it. But here, I want you to think about one layer up. I want you to think about you supporting your team of data scientists. Your company hired a lot of data scientists, and you're supporting this bunch of data scientists. So you are the developer, and this bunch of data scientists count on your code to work. They rely on your code to work. If your code doesn't work, they're gonna be doing wrong computation now. So they were running this, and they complained to you. They said, "Hey, Fundy, how come when I do something like that, I expect them to be true because insurance is 0? Yeah, but why is it not true?" So what happened here? Now, what happened is that you did not support this functionality yet. So how would you implement that? Well, you implement it up here again, right? So again, I want to start to see that, as we repeat this over and over and over again, a pattern should come up and surface. Is that when you're developing for people and for tools, and you see the main difference is that when you're not data scientists or data analysts writing notebook level code, but you're writing this level code and providing functionalities, you have to think about those cases. So let's go ahead and implement that right now. I'm going to implement the equal. So equal, this stands for equality check. Okay, so I'm going to say self, and I'm going to say other. I don't need the typing here, but I'm going to return a boolean. A boolean is either a true or false, right? And I want to first assert. I want to assert what? I want to assert that if the other instance has to also be packages. So meaning you can check for package 1 equals to package 3, that is acceptable, but you cannot check for package 1 equals to DBS. If you do that, I want to just directly fail because it doesn't pass the assertion, so it would fail. So I need the other package, I need both the package to be packages so that they are meaningfully compared. You cannot take a company and compare that to an employee. You cannot take an employee and compare that to a salary. You cannot take a salary and compare that to a job advertisement, right? Doesn't make sense. So first do an assertion. I'm going to check for that. And then what am I going to do next? I'm going to say if not instance, or let's say if not, yeah, I could do that. Actually, I could write that like that, or I could just say if not, yeah, I could also do that. So there are 2 ways to do that. Is that you can say if not is instance, you say other packages. So you don't even need this anymore. But you say if this is not true, then raise an error. So what would that error be? One is a type of package, one is a type of employer. So this is a type error. So I'm going to raise a type error. And I'm going to say doesn't make sense. Or actually don't. Let's not be too rude. Let's say you can only compare between 2 packages, because only that makes sense. You cannot compare a package to a company or to an employee, right? So let's go ahead and do that. And then we said if else, we said return self args equals to other args. And again, I can do args now because I created that up here, right? So if I were to save that, quit this, run this again, and I'd say Python 1 equals to package 3, it says true now. Perfect. It's exactly what I want. Okay, so you're starting to see the pattern that I'm showing you, is that you first imagine, okay, how would the data scientist expect the behavior to be, and what is it supported? If it's not, how do I add that so that it supports that, right? Is it meaningful now to maybe show you one last example, and then I think we'll wrap this all up. But let's see if there's any question or anything like that first. Okay, Jason asked a question, management student. You graduate in May 2022. I interviewed at stickearn.com and I'm really interested with the computer vision technology. Does Algoritma have computer vision bootcamp? We don't have that yet, but we're launching a computer vision class next year. So I don't have definite dates, but I will tell you though, I do have the materials out and ready. So if you want to, you can sign up for, you can go and, it's not fully done, but it has a lot of what you need already. And I'll paste the link in here. So you can just sign up for a GitHub account and you can either star it and fork it. And so when it's ready, when I push up new content, you will be able to follow along. So, so that I hope that answers your question. About the future of data science, a lot of things that would decline in the future due to automation and stuff like that. This is a good question, but I'll come back to this question because I think it's something that I need to maybe a bit more drawn out, and I will maybe give you my opinion about that. So let's look at the next question. What program is used? I'm using Python right now, and I'm using Visual Studio Code as the code editor, but you can use any code editor. So it's not an endorsement or anything. I just prefer to use it because I've been using it. So let me mark this as read as well. And do we have to write? Oh, this is a very good question, but I already explained that already. So this is, yeah, you do need to do that. How about auto operation? So this is kind of what I want, what I'm going to touch on now, right? So let me mark as answered, and I'm going to get into this right now. Okay. So if I take a look at what I have here, I say package 1 equals to package 3. It says yes, because even though the orders are not the same, they are fundamentally the same package. I'm still having 6 million as a base salary. I'm fundamentally having year-end package bonus as 3 million, and I have no insurance. So this is actually exactly the same, even though they are in a different order, right? And so this is fine. Package I want to check into package 3. Just now it was false. It wasn't working because we did not support that. Now we supported that through the add. But what if I want to check for something like, this is really important now. It's like, what if I want to say, is package 3 actually bigger than package 2? Is this more lucrative, right? So what do you think? If I do this package 3 greater than package 2, what do you think should happen here? It says this greater sign is not supported between instances. So when it has one package and another package is if you have one object being packaged, another object being packaged, and I'm trying to use the greater sign, it's not supported, it says. So I think by now you should almost guess what should I do now. Anyone have a guess? What should I do here? What do we do here? It says here, I expect this to work. My analyst will expect this to work. My data scientist would yell at me if this doesn't work. They said, Sam, why are you creating all these tools and you don't support the most fundamental operands at all? So it doesn't make sense, right? How would we change this to work? The answer is to support it, right? Is to just create that. So we this is the greater sign. So we implement a greater sign. We say greater than, and we say self other. And again, what do? We say return self. We need a value here. We need to add self and then plus something. And then we need to compare that. And we said if this is greater than the other, but we haven't really actually have any of this stuff in here yet. So we need to find a way to first compute the value between these, and we can use the formula that I was talking about. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to say compute value. I'm going to return an integer. Oh, actually, you know what? Shouldn't even have to be that. Just integer. And what I'm going to do is going to just return. And I want to take this self.monthly. I want to times 12 because there's 12 months in a year. And then I want to take that plus self.insurance annual plus self dot what do I have here? Year end bonus. Okay. So when I do that, what it's gonna do is it's gonna try and sum up all of this figure. So just to make sure that that works, I do see that there's an error somewhere. Oh, okay, because I didn't really complete this. So let me just give it a pass now. Okay, let me quit that right now. Clear my screen a little bit, and let me go ahead and say Python. And I say def 0, and within it, let me just go ahead and say compute value. So I'm going to take package 1 dot compute value. Okay, 7.5 mil. What about package 2? 6.6 mil. What about package 3? 7.5. So if I check Python package 3, should it be a more attractive package than this one? It should. It should, right? It should be a more attractive package than the other one, the second one. So I expect this to work. Or my analysts expect that to work, but it's not working. It's not doing that. Nothing gets returned. So let's go ahead and implement it. So what do we do here? We say check that, and we say return self dot compute value greater than other dot compute value. That's it. In fact, since we're in here already, we might as well go and implement the lesser than value. Lesser than. Okay. If we quit that now, whoops, we already quit it. So I'm gonna come in here, clear my screen. Now, if I say package 1 or package 3, compute value, this is what I expect. I expect this to be greater than package 2. So package 3, is it greater than package 2? Yes, now it's true. Now it's correct. So what we're doing here is really we're just implementing functionalities, and then we allow that to we allow the user to then count on this behavior to work reliably and consistently. Okay, so I'm probably not gonna keep on going. I can go ahead and think about other things we can do. For example, I can also implement a lang package 3. Says right now package have no lang. How do we implement that? We just have to implement it by putting lang. So that's also another one. You know, there's all kind of things you can do here. I can think of so many other ways you would do things like that, but I'm just gonna give you like the whole idea here is the mental model itself. So for example, what is a good value in here? I don't know. We can maybe return the length of. We take the arc for arc in self.arcs if arc equals to 0. So in this case, this should be a length of 3. This should be a length of 2. This should be a length of 3. Why? Because I'm going to say that what are the benefits that the company have or that the package have. So if I check that in here and I said length of package 1, I expect 2. Correct? 3. See? So this is really what we're doing here. This is really what we're doing here. Yeah, it's fine. You can you don't have to stand by. So this is what we're doing here, is that we're trying to implement functionality so our end user can use it. And this is really just a very, very quick glimpse of things. We're not even going into very deep details in here. But I'm going to save this now, and I'm going to maybe stop my share and go back to my slides, because if not, I won't have enough time for you to write code and stuff. And I wanted you to do that. So let me share my screen now. And let me share my keynote. Yeah, right. So what we're doing here is that we're actually seeing the same cycle of pattern that that we've been expecting, is that we create some sort of compensation package, but all of these are meaningless if we don't implement it, right? All of these are meaningless. You're not getting any kind of functionality. To get functionality, even though we use them for granted, what happens is those data scientists and analysts, they use it for granted, but you are the one that has to implement this stuff. So this is what I call building for developers. And how do you strengthen this muscle? And why is it important that you strengthen this muscle? Because it forces you to write code for more than an audience of one. When you write code for more than an audience of one, you're writing code for others, not just for yourself. And if you only learn from boot camps or from YouTube, or I don't know, from I'm not saying YouTube and boot camps are bad, okay? I run a boot camp myself, so there's no way I would say it's bad. But I'm saying that if you want to take your coding, if you want to take your data science skills one level up, you need to go beyond just writing code for yourself. And you need to be able to think about those kind of abstraction, about how do I implement protocols so people can use my protocols. People like data scientists, analysts can use my protocols. And later I'll show you how that works with email network, for example. Okay. So quick summary. Objects are Python's abstraction for data. All data in a Python program is represented by objects or by relations between objects. This is the first line. If you go to the Python language reference, this is the first line on there. This is not the second line, not the third line, not the fourth line. This is the first line on that documentation. It says objects are Python's abstraction for data. If you want to implement data, you want to implement information in Python, then you need to pick up that skill, whether you like it or not, object, okay? And then the second takeaway is when you're implementing, when you're developing for developers, you are essentially implementing protocols that others can rely upon to build their tools and solutions. The pandas library is a fantastic set of protocols. It gives you a lot of expected behavior. It tells you how to do that. It gives you good documentation and stuff. The scikit-learn library is also a fantastic set of protocols. The tidyverse is also a good set of protocols. Any of you who have done the whole bootcamp, at Algoritma, you probably at least hear of tidyverse, so you kind of know what that is. You at least hear of pandas, you kind of know what it is, right? And how do you make it clearer for other developers to use your product, to use your work? You implement things like documentations, assertions, type hints. I'll give you examples of all the three of them just now in the last like 40 minutes. So I'm not going to dive into it any further, but those are examples of that. And finally, the point is there is no magic. Everything that you see there, the length, the greater equal operator, the plus operator, the print statement, all of this require a fundamental binding to a certain kind of behavior that the developer have to implement. And so in our case, when we implement a package and employer, we have to say, what does a length means in the case of package? What does the greater sign operator means in the context of packages? What does a print statement do in the context of package? We have to think about those things and we have to implement them. But then we see that data scientists and data analysts take them for granted. We take them for granted. We don't even think about those things. We said, oh, we can just do a length, we do a print because it's supported by Python. It's not, right? Somebody have to implement that, and you're using that somebody's protocol. Okay. Let's pause a bit here and maybe see if there's any questions. Yeah, Jason, the chapter 6 is probably going to be on face recognition. And then later on, there are a few more. Maybe if I have time, I'll probably add into chapter 7 and 8, and we can talk about those things. I do have those materials. I do teach them in like short-term workshops, short-form workshops, but I don't have them flash out on a GitHub right now. But yeah, those are very good feedback. Thank you. And yeah, I would definitely think about those things. Anyone have questions apart from Jason? Jason is pretty much the only one asking me questions right here. What I understand about data science is only machine learning. Yeah, I think data science is a very, very big part of machine learning. It's a very big part beyond machine learning. It's not just machine learning. Yeah, sure, there's things like you can do with prediction and stuff like that, but very fundamentally, those are like machine learning is kind of a very high level of like last mile. In a way, what I mean by that is that somebody have to do all the groundwork before machine learning can even happen. Because if you try and train data with, if you try and train a machine learning model with very dirty data, you're not going to get any good result. But how do you clean the data? Somebody have to implement that. How do you even represent data? Somebody have to implement that. Somebody have to say that, okay, in Python or in R, there's no such a thing as data frame. Can I create something called data frame? If I can create something called data frame, I need to create something called the NumPy array. Can I create something called NumPy array? What should be the expected behavior for a NumPy array? So all of these things are taken for granted. But if you want to take your skills up a level, I suggest you strongly look into all of these things, look at how people create all these things. And then machine learning happen at the very, very end of that pipeline. This is a very, very long pipeline, very messy pipeline. Machine learning happens at the very end of that pipeline. So I would say it definitely go beyond that. You can specialize in machine learning if you want to, but don't limit that to your understanding of data science to machine learning itself. Can we make a function that can do not only one math operation in one function? Because we should always check if it's package entity or not in each function. Yeah, I mean, that's also one level of abstraction. I think I kind of sort of answer that question in a way where I showed you that I first compute package and I use that internally to then compare operations. So like that, you can add that kind of level of abstraction as well. You can create function to then say, okay, compute a value, and then you check both compute value and see if they're bigger or greater. So you can do that. And I maybe I'm not fully addressing your question, but I can address that later on, maybe at the end of the slides. So I'm gonna move that in. For the final product, will the packages you write meant to be thrown to backend and the input be retrieved from user interface? So there's a lot of ways you can think about that. Later on, when Aurelia takes over, she's gonna show you a demo, and that one, the front end is basically, you're gonna get visuals like that, but you basically just have to follow along the code. She'll explain, and I will show you how it ties in together. Yeah, but the package that, I mean, I wrote a lot of packages. This is one of those. I wrote some other packages as well, but it can be thrown to backend. It can also be a front-end facing stuff. Later on, that one that you use is quite front-end facing. So any layman can use that package and can create cool visualization without learning anything, without learning how to write code. Yeah, I can also address that. That's also a very good question. Guideline on how to scale a pack. I mean, Ferdinand, if you don't mind, maybe that question you can post it onto question, because I don't mark them as answered and I don't forget about the question. So if you can copy and paste that as a question onto Menti, I make sure that I get to that question, because if I don't mark as answered, then I will not forget, and it would always appear in here. So that's a very good question as well. I will address that. Okay. So sorry, I'm a little bit pressed for time now, but I'm gonna just not spend too much time here. But I want to talk about a quick summary of things. We said, okay, audience of one, when you start to write code, having to produce an identical analysis with fresh data periodically. So when you write code for yourself, you're not really learning anything. You're not really learning how to create any kind of abstraction, because you're really just writing code for yourself, and your code could be really, really bad, really, really ugly. I say that if you want to improve your code quality, the first thing you need to do is to find yourself a customer. Find ways to write code so that you're not your only customer, so that you are not your only audience. That is the fastest way to improve writing code. You can ask my team at Algoritma or at Supertype. I think that you can ask Aurelia later. But the moment you start to write code for others and people have to look at your code, they can give you feedback, they can do code review for you, that's when you improve tremendously as a developer. So if you're still stuck in that area, you're like, hey, I'm still, I get that, but I'm still writing code and no one is looking at my code and stuff. You need to find yourself a customer, find yourself an audience that is beyond yourself. Go above beyond audience of one. And then later on, you start to write some sort of software and programmers, and these are still very low level. You're starting to write code for people, and these are what I just showed you. You probably write for your teammates. This is where you start to think about code reuse. How do I write code that can generalize to other people's use cases? Because I create a nice package, and I expect everyone to use the package a little bit differently. Some people are going to use my package and do something different. Some people are going to use my package and do something completely different. How do I generalize to all these use cases, right? So that is kind of where it forces you to think about code reuse. It starts thinking about general patterns, higher abstraction patterns, and those are very good mental models to have as a developer or as a data scientist, right? And then you start to go on and you start to learn about documentation, and you can write codes that provide an API service and stuff. This is also a very interesting topic, but I cannot dive into it now. Maybe in a different Kickstart, I can talk about it for 2 hours, but now I can't. So you provide your software so that other software can talk to it. Here you're providing software to yourself. Here you're providing software to other programmers. Here you're providing software so that other software can talk to it, can communicate with it. And then slowly it goes into technical users. These are where a lot of open source packages and libraries fall into this category. This is where you need to very, very carefully write your tests. All your code should be well tested. We call it unit tests. You need to set up unit testing. In email network, we also set up unit testing. I'll talk about that later. But this is where you start to think about having audience of like 300, 500, 1,000 people using your code. That adds a lot of pressure all of a sudden, because your code cannot be bad. It cannot suck. It have to be good, right? Because we're putting your code in front of 1,000 people now. And if your code is bad, they're gonna look at it and they're gonna be like, hey, the code is bad, or they're gonna be very critical about that, because this is how the developer community can be a little bit sometimes a little bit critical. And then on the very high level abstraction, you are writing for people who then use your package to then build all these tools for all these people, HR manager, customer support, and they typically build it for two main things. One is to help people do the job better, assistive, and one is to automate the job so that people don't even have to do the job. So this is in the loop, this is out of the loop. So when they use your package and when they use all of this low-level abstraction to build tools, the tools serve one of these two purposes. One is to keep human in the loop, but make human more efficient, make human more effective. The other one is to keep human out of the loop, is to say, hey, let me take over this stuff. For example, like autonomous vehicle, self-driving cars, for example, automation stuff. These are things that says, hey, can you maybe not get in the way? Let me just decide whether the loan should be approved or not approved. So this is like machine learning models that approve a loan or not approve a loan. These are out of the loop. In the loop is trying to keep the human in the loop by giving them better visualization, better analytics, helping them make better decisions. So fundamentally, all the products can be categorized into one of these two. You're either trying to be assistive, or you're trying to just be a replacement for the human. And typically when you're trying to write code for this set of users at the top, the brown and not the brown, but the red and the light beige color, typically the objective, the key result is developer productivity. You begin to transcend from an R user to an R developer, a Python user to a Python developer. Okay, the determinant factor being your ability to implement good idiomatic protocols that behave consistently and predictably. People can predict what's happened. People can understand that if I were to take your package 1 and I add package 2 together, package 1 plus package 2, I expect some sort of behavior, and that behavior is consistent with the protocols that you implement. People should not have to guess. They should not have to guess what would happen here. If I take package 1 plus package 2, what should happen here? And it's up to you to be consistent and to be predictable and to be idiomatic. Okay. So this is the key result. This is how you are being measured when you're writing code for users up here. When you're writing code for the people down here, what are you trying to do? You're trying to achieve some sort of business objective. So here you begin to transcend from an R user, from a Python user to be a R developer or Python developer. But here you're no longer measured by all this. You're measured by how many times can you, how often, how consistently can you deliver value, deliver benefits to companies, right? Deliver benefits, not features. Deliver benefits you claim you would, and drawing deeply from a specific domain knowledge. So you do need some sort of domain knowledge to actually implement those tools and to bring real world benefits to all these end users, to your HR manager. There's a few ways to maybe, if you're saying that, okay, Sam, I'm sold, how do I get from here? So just like building for developers, over the decades, software developers have settled on a few well-established paradigms and mental models that represent the backbone of many business facing. So I showed you just now the mental model to building a tool for developers, right? We think about a certain behavior. We expect that that is going to be consistent with our implemented behavior. We said, okay, how would a data scientist imagine adding package 1 plus package 2? Oh, let's implement that for them, because if not, they're going to get a false, and that is wrong, and they're going to scream at us. The data scientist is going to scream at us. So let's implement that for them, right? But what about consumer facing? What about business level code? Now, these are a few very common paradigms. The model view controller, and then you combine that with some engineering skills later on. Okay. And then now we can finally go into like, what about some other human resources problem that we see here? So before I do that, maybe, are there any questions up to this point? Okay, I see your question. Is there any guideline on how to scale a package? I'm going to address that later. I'm a newbie who doesn't understand code. Is it real that an HR employee with no math or no statistics skill can learn all this? I would say yes, because it's been done multiple times before. It's been done a lot of it happened a lot more often than you imagine. You say that, hey, I'm a HR employee, I have no math skill, I have no statistics skill, can I learn all of that? It's happened a lot, right? Today it's kind of like, you know, when Excel was first created, you imagine that the only guys using Excel 25 years ago were the financial analysts who was working at Wall Street. Those are the only target audience for Microsoft Excel. 25 years ago, the only guys who use Microsoft Excel, they work in Wall Street. Okay, they are bankers, they are financial bankers, financial analysts. Okay, but today, if you look around you, no matter what you do, whether you're HR, whether you're a CEO, investor, a VC, an employee, whatever you do at all, you will use Microsoft Excel in a way, right? Because that's the new way of work. Data is all around you, right? Everything you do, you have to rely on good data-driven decisions. So in a way that 25 years ago, the only guys that use Excel are financial analysts and bankers and stuff. Today, everyone is using it. And I would say like that's very, very close to the future where that's what we not even the future, it's already the current, already the present. Today, if you go into like, for example, you go to a lot of companies, you see that a lot of them who are not data scientists, they can do for example, I'm a credit risk analyst. I can do R and Python. For example, I'm a journalist. If you look at all the big journalists, you know, they have very good visualization, very good publication. Who do you think they did all of that? The journalists, right? So this is also called data journalism. So a lot of times, it creeps very, very close into what you're doing and stuff. And by the time you wake up to that, you're like, oh, it's already too late. You know, I'm already left behind because I'm not able to make good data-driven decisions. So I would say, yeah, take the dive in. If you want to like get started, you know, it's very low barrier anyway now. Just go to any website, search it up, Coursera, DataCamp, Algoritma, anyone, right? Find a good platform. Attend workshops like this. This is a free workshop for alumni. This is non-alumni. They paid like 100K, $10. Workshops like this, and from there on, pick a good book or something, pick a good course, or even go and sign up for a free course or something. There are plenty of this as well. And then try and go from there. And once you take the first step in, the next step becomes easier. It's always hard to take the first step. Once you take the first step, everything is easier. So that's my answer to your question. Hi, I just recently graduated from Algoritma. How do I improve my programming skills besides finding a customer? Yeah, so this is also a very good question. How do you improve your programming skills? Is to always get code review. Try to get code review. Try to work on projects. It's very easy to say that, okay, but I'm not at the level to write project. But at what point would you ever be at that level if you're not going to start now? So this is what I usually tell my students. I said, start to build apps. It doesn't matter how bad your apps are. Build apps, because your first 5 apps, no matter how good you think they are going to be bad. Okay, your first 5 apps, I don't want to use the word shit, but like your first 5 apps are going to be really, really horrible. And your first 5 apps should make you feel a bit ashamed when you look back into it 5 years from now. 5 years from now, you're going to look back at the first app you write and you have to cringe a bit. You have to feel a bit of cringe. You're like, oh crap, did I write that code? That was so horrible. That is so mad. What was I thinking writing code like that? You should actually feel like that 5 years from now, looking back at your code. So to me right now, it doesn't matter that your code is bad or anything like that, right? It doesn't matter. All that matters is that you get the quantity in there. Get the quantity of writing code, producing code, putting it out there, putting it out there, putting it out there. If you have to fill, and you keep filling after 5-6 times, you start to realize that your code quality starts to improve, because when you're starting to learn, when you're only coming out from like a bootcamp and stuff, it's very easy to underestimate the power of quantity, but quantity really have a power there. The quantity, the sheer amount, the volume of code, the amount of code that you write, it really plays a part in trying to force some good habits there, force some good mental models in there. And the next thing is, I would say also, when you try to, once you graduated from like boot camps and stuff, when you look at people teaching you how to write code and stuff, forget about learning the syntax. It's not important. Focus on the mental model that the person is trying to convey here. Like, for example, just now, you could forget everything that I just talked about. That's no problem. But you remember the key lesson, the key mental model. That's the important part. Because syntax, you can always Google it and then copy and paste from Stack Overflow. As long as you know what to copy. How do you know which one to copy? Mental models. So that's a really important thing. A lot of people think that they go to bootcamp because they want to learn how to write the code, the syntax and stuff. It's not important. That's the code and syntax is the easiest thing to Google. Every developer will Google the answer and then just copy and paste. What's really important is knowing how to solve problems. the mental model that you absorb from that. So that is kind of how you improve your programming skills. I don't know if that fully answered your question or not, but I guess I can have a more in-depth discussion later on. But I'll just mark this as answered right now. If it's not sufficient, you can maybe ask again and maybe word it differently, and I can provide different answer to that. Okay, so with that said, right, we talk about programs, we talk about software. There are fundamentally two types of software. I talk about that. One is to augment human capabilities. One is to replace human capabilities. Augment human capabilities, they don't try to replace human. What they do is keep people in the loop. They try to be assistive. They try to assist human in making decisions. Okay, and replace human capabilities is focus on what? Automation and computational decision making. For example, if I build a credit scoring model and I implement it in a bank, now what am I doing? I'm replacing human capability. I'm saying that every time the loan comes in there, my model, my machine learning model should execute and make a decision right away. I realized that my video is not turned on for some reason, so I'm going to turn it back on. But that replacing human capabilities is trying to keep human out of the loop. You're saying that, hey, let me solve this problem for you. You don't even have to come near it. I'm going to solve the problem for you. The first time the word machine learning has been used in a way, the guy that was often credited to coin that word, he said this. He said the program there is to substitute cognition for algorithms. And then he coined the term machine learning to say that the machine learning itself is to try and replace cognitive tasks with computers. Okay. This is very different from the red side, the left side. The left side, you're trying to not keep people out of the loop. You're trying to involve people. You're trying to empower people. You're trying to say, hey, can I build tools that help you do your job better? Right? I'm not trying to take your jobs away. I'm not trying to, replace human. I'm just trying to make you more effective at what you do. And whatever that thing could be. And here the purpose is not to replace, not to substitute, but to exchange the cognition with perception. Try to give you perception. Try to allow you to use visual representation, use new representation to represent a problem so that a human can tackle the problem a little bit better. So I talked about this in my last talk as well, so I'm not gonna dive too much into it, but I have a video. You can go and find it on my Facebook, whatever, and you can watch the whole video, because I elaborate a lot more on this, but I'm not really gonna focus too much on that. But I'm just gonna talk about human problems itself. So ultimately what you do is that you're doing one of two things for humans. You're either augmenting human or you're replacing human. In a task like this, when you have a problem like that, so a bit of a background, we have up to 30 members in our teaching staff. So we have 30 people teaching in our company. These are only teaching members. So I'm not counting sales, I'm not counting marketing, I'm not counting the CEO, I'm not counting anyone else. I'm counting only the people who teach in our company. There are 30 members. And we engage in 2017, 2018, we teach in Singapore, in Indonesia, in Thailand. We teach in all these different countries, and we have maybe close to 100 to 120 students per day. And we expect that at the end of the journey, at the end of the whole learning experience, students want to give some sort of feedback, and they want to do it anonymously. And each of the workshop, they also have varying length. Some of them are 3 days, some of them are 3 months and beyond. They have different hours per session, different classroom size and stuff. So we want the teaching staff to be able to gather feedback from the classes, and we want the key leaders to have visibility into the members' performance. So this is a human performance, sort of a human performance problem. So what seems like a better fit for that? Is it on the right or is it on the left? Does it look like something that if we're gonna build a software, are we gonna lean towards the right hand or towards the left hand? Of course, there's gonna be a component of both. There's a bit of right, there's a bit of left, there's a bit of automation, there's a bit of assistive. But I would say it leans towards the left. We're trying to give people tools so that they can measure performance, they can better understand performance. So that's what pedagogy is. And if you have, let me see if I can share my screen on that one. I don't want to run over time, so I'm gonna maybe do it a little bit fast now. Share my screen here. Desktop, yeah, share. Okay. Pedagogyapp.com. Okay, so this, I need to, my certificates have just expired, so that's kind of nice. I need to go and renew it. But if I go to pedagogyapp.com, this is this pulls from a database, and it gives you a breakdown. This is how many hours we've been teaching. This is the amount of students we have. So you see who's been teaching the most hours. That would be me. Who's been teaching the most amount of students? That would be very close, but it would slightly be me, and then very closely followed by David, who is also on our team. And you can then see the breakdown of the teaching workshops and stuff. You can see how many of them are teaching and how actively are they teaching and stuff. I could show you the team analytics. This is all our team. This is, you know, who's been teaching and lead instructor roles and stuff like that. I could go into the Visual Explorer. I need to sign in, so I'm going to do that right now. And if I go into Visual Explorer, I should be able to use the Visual Explorer tool, and I can compare performance. I can say, what if can I compare Sam? Let me find Sam, which is here, with, let's say, Steven Christian. So I'm going to put a shift here. The color is a bit dim, but you can compare them. You can say, what about Ardito? What about Hussein? And you can see that the charts start to change a little bit. Tommy, for example. So you see that Tommy is really, really a high performer. He's very high up there, almost, you know, in every metric. And you see that Sam is not that high. Almost, Sam is the green one. So I do pretty well on knowledge. I'm higher than anyone else on here, but I don't do very well in terms of assistant score, or I don't do very well in terms of, let's say, I don't know, venue score or timeliness objective or anything like that, right? So, and you can also sort of like drag in and stuff, and you can compare and you can measure. Let me click a few so you can see what's gonna happen. So I can compare and say this is the number of class size. I want to see who has been assigned to teach all the very hard classes. So teaching hard classes means you teach a classroom with more than 100 people. Anything more than 50 people is kind of hard, because you as the instructor need to sort of put all the focus into all this group of people. So this set here, people who have a class size of more than 50, these are the guys that are the real heroes of the company. These guys are easier. They only have a classroom of 20, 30. What about workshop hours? These are the real heroes. Workshop hours are, if you have to teach a long hour workshop, you have to be very focused. You have a lot of mental energy to expand. So you can sort of see, you know, who has been assigned to all these main key workshops and stuff. I can drag and drop and stuff. So all of this is done. And if you wonder where can I get the code is my GitHub. You can just go and copy that. This is all my GitHub. If you want to like, if you wonder like, where can I develop something similar to yours? Well, the code is all my GitHub. So if you want to like follow along, if you want to just keep track of all the things I built, you can just follow me on GitHub. Just go to my GitHub profile and just follow me. That's also one way to keep track of that. I can look at my accomplishment, and my accomplishment will tell me everything, how many times I've been a lead instructor on, how many hours have I taught. Ecstatic ratings are 5-star, full 5-star rating. So that means I need to get a 9 out of 10 rating across all the students. And remember, all our survey are anonymous. So meaning when I ask you to fill out a survey, it's all anonymous. So meaning you can actually be very harsh if you want to, be very critical if you want to. So it's not easy to get a 9 out of 10 rating because all the questions are anonymous. I can see all my most recent workshop. I can compare that. I can also see all my feedback in here. So that's kind of nice. So I'm going to log out now, right? So I'm going to show you this. And if you want to actually, are you looking at my whole screen? You are. Yeah, you are seeing my whole screen. So I can actually just go in there and github.com/onlyphantom/pedagogy. So if I show you my code, this is where you can download all the code. If you want to deploy that and play around with yourself, play around with your own data and stuff, you want to implement similar things, you can do that. This is where you find all the code. I wrote that mostly in Python. And as for your presentation, yeah, you will get you'll get a copy of this. Yeah. So that's kind of that. Email network. Let me see. 8:20 now. I think we do have time, right? So Aurelia, are you ready? You wanna maybe take over now? Email network, for those of you who want to follow along, you can get the code from here, all of that. But you can, Aurelia is very helpful. She created a notebook for you to sort of follow through. So if you're ready, oh, you can unmute yourself, right? So let me do that for you. Let me, where is my participants? And let me find you. Sorry for that. I need to unmute you here. I can ask to unmute and make co-host. Oops. Okay, here. Make co-host. Yeah. Okay, so for those of you who not, I'll give you a quick context, and then Aurelia will take over. So a quick context. what's up with email network? Basically, email network is a set of tools for you to work with emails and check for emails and look for content and stuff and look at relationships between human, discover subgroups within your organization. So whether the different task force, study social actors, look at, how does the marketing team behave around certain people? What are the groups who are most connected with everyone else? Discover the key social groups. Usually, if you work in a big company, you know that people like to form like tribes. They have, you see that Adam is hanging out with Joe all the time, and you see that Sam is hanging out with Nayoko all the time, and you see a few of these groups. So how do you find all these patterns in your email structure? How do you use your mailbox and find out all this structure? So if you want to follow along with your own email mailbox, you can go to a service called Google Takeout, which is here. And you can go and export your own data, but make sure you don't accidentally push that onto GitHub, because then everyone is going to see your mailbox and you have an email leak, and that's not nice. Okay. So Aurelia, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to stop now. Aurelia, you can go ahead. I mean, if everyone actually is comfortable with Bahasa, I don't know. I don't know if everyone is comfortable with Bahasa, but if there is no protest, I guess you can also do it in Bahasa if there is no protest. I'm going to stop now.
Okay, I will do it on English. Okay, hi everyone. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Aurelia Christie. I work with Sam at SuperType. So today I will give you some demo about how to use email network. Okay, so let me share my screen first. I have shared the link to the collab in the chat box. If you want to use your Visual Studio Code, it's also okay. You just have to clone first the GitHub repository here. Click the code and copy here, or you have to fork it first, then you clone your own repository. Okay. So if everyone is ready, I will start it now. So first thing first, I will clone it first. And if the clone is finished, you will be able to see the email network folder here. So is everyone following me? You can type done in the chat if you have done that already, if you want to follow me around this demo. Does anyone want to be waited for a message? Then I will go straightly. So like how you use any other package, you just okay, there's a chat for it. Okay, wait please. Okay, so I will give you 1 until 2 minutes to clone it to your collab or your terminal. Meanwhile, you can also do the pip install just like any other package in Python. It won't take so long. Okay, so what happened here? No, oh sorry, so is everyone ready now? Okay, if there's no any other chat, I will continue. Okay, so you're ready now. Shari, thank you. Okay, so we will start to use our sample mbox here. So if you want to work with email network, you will need some mbox file. This is provided for you in the email network, go to the task, and here is the sample mbox. But you can also export your own email by go to the Google Takeout service. Maybe I will go through it one more time so that you understand it well, then you can analyze your email later. You can go here, then you go down here and you can deselect all first. Then go down. Oh, note that you have to use your Gmail account to do it, okay? So go down here and you will find mail here. You can select it And then you can also select category that you want to analyze. So for example, for this workshop, I will only choose my sent email, and then I click OK here. So this will need sometimes to be exported. So therefore, we will use the sample mbox to work with today. Okay, then you click next step, and you can choose where you want the export result to be sent to you. Maybe you want to, maybe I will choose the first option for now, send download link via email, and I choose export once and zip file. Here you can also choose exports larger than this size will be split into multiple files. So if you choose 2 GB, if your send emails is larger than 2 GB, then there will be multiple file exported to your email. Okay, so if maybe I will choose 1 GB for now, and then just click the create export. Okay, so as written here, Google is creating a copy, and this process can take a long time, possibly hours. It depends on your mail size, right? So while waiting for that, we will continue the demo. In the end of the demo, I will show you the result of the exported email, so you can analyze your own email later. Okay, so let's start the demo. Here I have import the mbox reader. You can straightly use it to read the sample mbox provided. You can copy the path here, then you can paste it here. Don't forget to use quotation here. Okay, so there are 140 emails in the sample mbox. We will try to analyze these 140 emails today. Okay, so in the extract email, the first thing we can do is among those 140 emails, we can analyze a specific email. How can we do that? We just have to do reader.mbox, and we can select a specific index. For example, I want to select the 5th index, and then I have to do extract meta here and paste in the email. So if you run this code, you can see that this code resulting in here. So the email in the 5th index is received by samuelchan@gmail.com, and the domain of this email is gmail.com, right? But you can also extract other things from the extract meta result. You can just print email MSG, and you can see here what other thing you can extract from the email meta. For example, sender, you just have to type .sender here, run it, and boom, you got the email of the sender. If you want to maybe specifying the email, you can just type in .email. Like that. Okay, so here's the how you can analyze a specific email. You can try the other things next later on. Okay. So the other thing you can do is you can extract the body of the email. You can do it by doing extract underscore body, and then you paste in the email you have created before, this one, yeah? You paste in this one here. And in the extract body result, you can get the subject and the body of the email. Here I have created the code for you, so you have the result here, subject and body. Okay. So that's all about playing around with a specific email. Is there any question yet until now? If I'm too fast, please tell me in the chat box so I can slow down a little bit. There's no questions. There's no question, then I will continue my, okay, it's clear. Okay, I will continue now, okay? So we can also do filter the email by certain dates. So for example, maybe I will change this to this year. Yeah, this year emails. Maybe I will district here for 2021. I remember to use this format, okay? Year dash month dash date. Then you can pass in the operator. The date operator options are greater than or equal to, or smaller than or equal to. Yeah. For example, we want to do this here. So it turns out there is the email. Okay, I forget that this is the sample. So you have to pass in 2020. Yeah, there are some emails that was received after from 1st January 2020 until now. Okay, so here's some of the message, all of the message. Okay, that's all about filtering email. So now I will move on to graphs. There are two kinds of graph you can create using email network package. This is the graphs. If you are confused what this graph means, I can explain it to you. So the nodes here means represent a person's email, one person's email, and the edges, the arrow here, is represent the connection between them. So maybe the email between them. So this is called a directed graph because the arrow, the edges have a direction. So you can, in this case, you know who sent the email to whom. Okay. And the second one is the undirected graph, which the edge has no direction at all. So you just know that there is a connection between these two emails, but you don't know who sent the email to whom. And the size of these nodes represent the number of correspondence or email, yeah, related to that person's email. Okay, so maybe in this case we will see Samuel Chan at the center of the node, since this is maybe the sample email we get from Samuel. Okay, so if you want to create, there are several functions to create the directed and undirected graph. You can specifying a single directed graph, and you can also create a directed graph for the whole email. Okay, so first we want to create a single directed graph. We can just do plot single directed. We pass in the reader we created before, and we pass in the index. For example, I want to analyze the 12th index of the email. Okay, so I put in 12, and also there is a parameter show title. You can also show the title here. Okay, run it. Okay, here we can see that this email was sent by Samuel Chan to by Samuel Chan to dan@supertype.ai. In the title above, you can see the subject and also the delivery date. Okay, if you don't believe this, we can also check it by specifying the one we created before. Like we can do reader.mbox specifying the 12th index, and we can do extract underscore meta and paste in the email. Here, you can see that the sender is samuelchan@gmail.com and the recipient is dan@supertype.ai. It's the same like the one in the directed graph, right? Okay. Is it clear until now? If there's any question, please let me know. Okay, you can also do single undirected graph by doing plot single undirected and paste in the reader. For example, I want to analyze the 130 index, and then I want to show the title also. So this is undirected graph. You can see that there is an email between samuelchan@gmail.com and sandy@algoritma, but you don't know who sent the email to whom. So if you want to check it, you have to use the single directed graph, right? Right. Here, since 130, show title, true. Here, it turned out that Sandy sent the email to Samuel Chan. Okay. So if you want to analyze the whole directed or undirected graph of your company organization, you can just do plot directed. You can pass in the reader. Okay. Also here, you can optionally specifying a layout style. It means the default one is shell, but you can also choose between spring or spiral. Maybe I can change it to spring. It's just the layout of the graph that is different here, but the main concept is the same. So for the spring, the one that receive the most of the email or correspondent to the most of the email will be placed at the center of the graph. Okay, that is spring. There are also shell and spiral for that. Okay, and the other one is undirected graph, plot undirected. You can pass in the reader. Okay, here you can see that Samuel Chan has the largest notes here because this is maybe his email, so he is the one that most correlated with most of the email. Okay. You can also optionally export a graph ML, the graph.ml format to your working directory for use in other network or graphing software. Right there. You can just type in graph ML and paste in true. Okay. If you do that, you will see the result here. Wait, I will refresh first. This is the result of the graph. Okay, if you wonder how can this be useful for your HR job in your company, maybe you can detect subgroups between your organizations. For example, if you want to analyze your company or company email, you can analyze subgroups between your organization, like maybe marketing team and sales team hang out a lot, while maybe IT team will rarely hang out with other teams, right? Like that, for example. Okay. Until now, is there any question from you guys? Okay. If there is no question, then I will move on to the next part. The next part is about how to make your email summary. There are two features available there about how to create the sender domain summary and incoming and outgoing summary. So the first one, if you want to see the sender domain summary, you can just type in domain summary and paste in the email. Sorry, the reader, I mean. And you can do summary.plot, and you will see here. Most of the email are sent using the gmail.com domain. And the next one is using Algoritma. And here are the others domain of the senders. And also you can have it on a dictionary format. You can just type summary.summary. Okay, so here is the dictionary format. The other thing you can do is you can do incoming and outgoing summary. It is very similar about how to use it. You can just type in incoming, outgoing summary, and you pass in the reader. And you can do the plot also here. This is the result. So because this is a sample inbox, maybe the user is very active on June 2016, but then suddenly there was no email at all. And on April, he got very few email, and August, he got more email there. And you can also get the dictionary format too by type in the summary.summary here. This is the dictionary format for the in-out and outgoing summary. Okay. Oh, you can track the traffic of your own email using this function. This must be very helpful for a big company email maintenance, right? If there's no any question, I will go to the last one. Oh, okay, there is the chat. Why is my directed graph different with the demo when using the style? Oh, it's different. Actually, the if I run it again, if I run it again, I will have a different layout again. So the length of this graph doesn't represent anything, so you don't have to worry about that. The one that important here is the arrow, the direction of the arrow, so you know who sent the email to whom. Okay, is there is that answered your question, Lisa? For Pusri Ali Sulas, yes, that are available for you. You can just use it straightly. You don't have to make that function for you. Why is there a separate line below? Oh, because this one is not correlated with Samuel anymore. Because this one is, if we look at it more closely, you can see that the name is Samuel Wenzel. So this is the email that not correlated with Samuel Chan. In this one is they are all correlated with Samuel Chan, therefore they are in one graph. But this email is not correlated with Samuel Chan, therefore there is a separate line here. Okay, does that answer your question, Lisa? It's clear, thank you. Okay, thank you for your question. Is there any other question? If it's not, I will continue to the last part, okay? So there is also a header analysis feature in the email network package. Not correlated means only CZ. No, not correlated means that is not sent or received by Samuel Chan at all. So this one is because the name is not Samuel Chan but Samuel Wenzel. Therefore the graph is separated below. And with the syntax later, please. Oh, sure. I will send you the full demo. For Yogi, not credited means this email is not received or sent by Samuel Chan at all. Therefore, that clear? Okay, then I will go to the next one, the last part. Here is another feature you can use in email network, which is header analysis. This is a useful thing to be done in order to detect malware or spam detection on the emails. So maybe this is rarely used in HR context, but this is this is very useful for those who want to detect malware or spam in their emails. Okay, so you can do import the function, and then you can just do header counter and paste in the email, the reader. And you can do header.histogram and specifying the number of header you want to analyze. The default one is 25. So if you don't pass in anything here, you can have n equals to 25. But for this case, for the simple mbox, you just have 24 email. Therefore, you have to pass in the number of email header you want to analyze. If you are wonder what does email header means, you can go to your email account here. You can go straightly here, this in more. You can, oh, sorry, maybe I will go to the other email here. I can go here. Yeah, the more the setting the more one is the more menu one is this one, and then you can go down here and go to show original. Okay, this is your header. This one is the header. Okay, so if you wonder, this one is the header. It is very useful for those who want to analyze spam or malware, like I said it before. Okay. Again, I will walk you through that again. You can go to your email and then you can go to the more option. You can go to show original. Okay. That is the header. Okay. So maybe, so here is the result of the header analysis for this sample inbox. You can see that most of them is received. And sometimes there is also a spam indicators here. For example, if you subscribe to a channel, maybe to an email, maybe you will have the spam indicator here. Maybe the rate of of the email become a spam. Okay. Therefore, this will be useful for spam detection. Okay. That's all I think about the demo. Is there any question for now? If there's not, you can go check your email. Maybe if you have exported before, you can go check your email. Here, you can see here, I have received my result of the export. Okay, if you have received it too, you can go download your files. So, but if you haven't received it, it's okay. You can do it later. Okay, I just want to show you guys how to export your email, then use it in the email network analysis. Okay, so you can do here, download your files, and it will be downloaded. Here's where I must sign in. Maybe this is my password. Okay. Yeah, these are all my download. You can just download it. Okay. If you download it already, you will have a zip file. You will have a zip file here. You can export the zip file. I will not go through that, but you can just easily export your email. Maybe I have to reshare my screen in order to show you how to export it and then import it to your analysis. Okay, wait. Go to share my screen, and then you can go to the downloads. And here you can see the one that I have downloaded before. You can extract the email, extract all, and click extract. Okay, wait for a while. Okay. Okay, it's done. Here is the result. You can double click here and you can see here the result of the mail. I export inbox and sent this morning. Sorry, it's very noisy. Okay, I export inbox and send this morning. Therefore, there are inbox and send. If you have exported only the send inbox, you just see the send inbox here. Okay, so you can just drag it to your collab, import it here, so you can use it here. Okay, you have to refresh to see whether the yeah. Okay, maybe waiting for a while. But you have, if you have done that, you can just straightly do runtime and run after. Assume all this code will work for you. Okay, wait, maybe I don't know why this is taking so long. Okay, but later you can have your own result here. Maybe I will share the one that I have run before. Here is the one. Okay, here is the result of my email. Okay, there are 87 email in my send box. Okay, and here I filter on the last year emails here. you can see that there, I also filter it here, so I don't get a lot of email here. So I just want to see 2 of them. And like before, you can also do specific, do the analysis of the specific email. Okay, so then there is my directed graph. You can see here that this is my name here, and I connected to all of the email in my send inbox, right? So if you see here, there is Vincentius Christopher Calvin, who is also correlated with my other co-workers here, Samuel Chan, Gareth Bryan, and so on. So if you're working with your company email, you will see the result and the analysis here. You can explore more later. Okay, so here is the undirected graph. It's similar to the one before, to the directed graph, but the difference is it has no direction, right? So you don't know who sent it to whom. Okay. So here is my email header analysis, and here is my email summary. Oh, this one I forgot to mention to you. You can also do spam header filter in your email headers. You can just type in here. Please filter lambda v. This is also available on the notebook. You just have to run it. Okay. So in this case, I don't have spam header since I don't check out the spam category when I export the email. Okay. So the last one is my email summary. Here is the sender's domain occurrence. Most of them comes from gmail.com, and some of them are from other company I'm working with. Okay. And this is my incoming and outgoing emails per month. I remember I created this email on July 2020. This was last year, and that was because I want to apply to some jobs. Therefore, on July, I only got outgoing emails since I applied to many company before I met some, of course. And then here you can see in maybe December 2020, I got a lot of email. But on September 2020, I sent a very few email. Can be analyzed from more than one source of email using this. Um, what do you mean by that? Maybe you can do that by combining the mbox file. I'm not sure. Maybe someone can help me with that question as well.
Yeah, I think the idea is correct. Basically, it's you need to if you can combine the mbox into one mbox, you can do that. A lot of like expensive enterprise email software have that kind of service. So let's say you have 2 employees leaving the company and you're the HR manager and you wanted to analyze both email at the same time. If you use like an enterprise email like Outlook, for example, there are services that allow you to do that. So you can say, okay, if a sales manager leave my company, it's pretty devastating because we do a lot of corporate work, and let's say Kak Maggie or Kak Isna, if they leave the company, it's very devastating. So I want to analyze and see, okay, who are the main touch point, who are the main contact points, who are the main they call, like Indonesia we call it pegang kan, pegang account siapa kan, pegang the key accounts holders. So we want to look at that. So yeah, you can do that, but that is maybe a bit more out of the out of the scope of this discussion here. But Aurelia, can you continue?
Yeah, of course. Okay, the last one is, when do we use different type of network layout? I think it's quite, it's up to you, right? If I'm not mistaken, it's up to you. You just have to choose one of them here. Okay. You mean this layout, right? I think it's up to you. Can we analyze the body email to make sure there is no outgoing confidential data? Yes. Yes, you can do that. As I showed you earlier, you can do analyze your body email using extract body. Maybe you can then use use the text analysis there. You just have to play around with this. Yeah, this one, extract underscore body. Here, you can do your analysis here. Okay. So Is there any question left? If there's no question, maybe I'm waiting for 1 to 2 minutes. If there's no more question, I think that's all from me. I will send you the full demo of course.
Um,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you, Aurelia, for doing
Yeah.
a good demo here with step by step on how do you start working with it. If you're in the HR industry, one of the most devastating thing that happened, at least to me, is I have my key generals leave, right? The key employees leave the company because for a lot of reasons, especially if this guy works in a very important capacity, like in sales, for example, you would lose a lot of key accounts. I would say like for example, my head of sales, Maggie, she Isna and her team Maggie, they together, two of them together, they would account to maybe 70% of our corporate sales, all our corporate sales. They have their own public sales team, but two of them combined would at least be 70, maybe even 80% or even higher than that. So when an employee leave, how do you put in set of policies to make sure that there's a lot of use cases, but also another one is, when an employee is serving the last 30 days of notice, you are worried that this guy is going to send out information that is confidential to the company to his own mailbox. How do you check that? How do you stop that? In a lot of companies like industry, like financial industry, banking, these are very sensitive information. So if you're serving the last 30 days of if you're in the last 30 days of your employment, there is always that information leak, the data leak, where the employees would take data out of the company, sending it to their own mailbox first, take PDF, send to their own mailbox. How do you check that? How do you track that? And so here it has all the tools for you to do those things. I can't really actually go into a lot of those examples, but these are kind of the motivation of why I developed that in the first place. This is not the only solution out there in the marketplace. There are a lot of tools like that does something similar, but they are very expensive tools. And they all work as a web SaaS. And one or two of my clients came to me and said they're not comfortable uploading their mailbox to a web SaaS, so meaning a web software. And so for that, I thought, okay, what if we develop a package and so the data never leave your computer? Because I'm asking you to install a package and the whole thing would run on your own computer. No one is ever going to see your mailbox. So that's how I came about to developing it with my team. And I'll talk about a little bit of those issues because we also implement a few other cool tricks. But before I do that, I feel like I'm very privileged to be joined by the co-founder of Mau Belajar Apa. So Duina is with me today, and I thought this is a perfect opportunity to ask her to also share her thoughts, because I saw that initially when I asked you what is your main motivation in here, a lot of you voted for learning about HR industry, HR case study, and I know almost not all of you, but almost half of you are developers yourself, data scientists, right? And you're probably thinking about how can I build tools, how can I build useful stuff for the HR industry. And Duina, she's in the hiring, she's in the upskilling space, so she help folks learn, develop skills, and make themselves more employable, very similar to how Algoritma function, very similar mission statement. So I thought, Duina, maybe you can introduce yourself about, maybe a lot of us may not have heard of what the great work that you're doing with the platform. So maybe you can talk about that, explain about what Mau Belajar Apa is, and then maybe talk about those opportunities. How would you, let's say I'm a very fresh new beginner developer and I want to get into that, I want to build tools that are useful for HR industry. What would you recommend I do? What would you suggest I do? So you can take it away. I need to maybe unmute you first. Sorry. Let me make sure that you're unmuted. Okay.
Okay. Hi, Sam. Thanks for the opportunity. Okay, hi everyone. My name is Duina. I'm the co-founder of Mau Belajar Apa. Maybe I don't think every one of you knows Mau Belajar Apa, but we are a marketplace. We are focusing on soft skills, or maybe you know it as vocational skills. So we have a lot of partners. One of them is Algoritma also. But we're focusing on marketplace, so like Tokopedia, but our product is all the educations in vocationals. Our main focus is to upskilling and reskilling all the employee or the human resource, so they can fill the gap between the market needs and the skills that they have. So if you're talking about HR, especially HR industry, maybe me myself has some experience in hiring, especially in Mau Belajar Apa. And I'm also made systems for the HR department in Mau Belajar Apa. And actually, I'm interested in the pedagogy that you show to us before. Yeah, because one of the challenge in HR department is how to tracking the performance of the employee, of course, because managing people is harder than managing tasks because there's a feeling involved, and how to improve the effectivity of the employee so it can improve the effectivity of the business, of course. But I think one of the biggest gap in HR industry is the tracking performance in HR department is quite hard because especially almost all of the HR that I know, they're gonna use like a Google Sheets to keep the KPI from every employee. So that's why when I saw the pedagogy, I thought like, oh, I want to have that one for my HR department.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so for you guys, especially the developer, if you want to disrupt the HR industry, I think one of the thing that you should consider is how to make the HR industry can tracking their employee more effective and
Quantifying performance. Yeah.
yes, exactly.
What about folks who are trying to build and then trying to sell it to HR industry? How would you recommend they break through into it? So let's say we develop a nice tool. We think, hey, these companies can use this. How would you recommend we take the approach? Like from your entrepreneurship, from the many years of experience, how would you recommend we take that approach?
I think one of the things that you can try to sell it to the HR industry is by your networks. One of the main things to become an entrepreneur is you have to have a good networking. So it's a main important things. But I think all the HR, all the employer, especially in HR, they are looking for something that can help them to improve their department.
Yeah. I mean,
Actually, maybe you can try to disrupt the training program. All of the HR department, they have like a target to improve their employee from training program from their business.
Yeah.
So you can also track that. Because we have a lot of company requests for the workshops for their employee. It's not necessarily like it's not necessarily involve the skill of the employee, like for digital marketing team, maybe they only looking for a training that about digital marketing. No, sometimes the HR also looking for something that more lifestyles or entertaining training. Yeah, I think for HR industry is still a lot of possibilities that you can explore.
Build tools for like build tools on top of Mau Belajar Apa, open your do the API and build tools for selling.
Yeah, sure, we can do that actually if you want.
Okay. All right. I mean, yeah. Thank you for your time. I'm gonna come back and talk to you more, but let's continue on the rest of the slide. I have like 5 more slides, but thank you, Duina.
Sure, you're welcome.
Okay, let me continue. I have a few more slides to go, and then we can take all the questions. I know there are questions I haven't answered. I know we haven't even get back to the slides yet and stuff. So let's go back to the slides. I'm gonna talk about four or five more, and I'm gonna show you a small amount of code snippets, and then we can finally do all the Q&A, and you can ask Duina as many questions as you want. She's a very trusted resource of mine for things like going to scaling a business, finding audience, and then because we're so good at building things, but we're not always good at knocking on the right doors. So let me share my screen now, and I'm gonna go into one more item. So you're looking at my terminal now, and I'm gonna zoom in a bit more so you can see everything. Now I want to talk about like solving problems in another angle. I want to talk about like what is data science really doing, right? Because there are still folks who are still thinking like, okay, what I heard about data science, I thought they're same as machine learning. What are they different? So let me show you a simple example, and then I can get into explaining what is happening. So when I talk about problem solving, there are fundamentally I can do Python right now. Yeah, that's fine. I probably can close this one up, I think, so you can see more space. Okay, so when we talk about solving problems as engineers, as software developers, we're fundamentally talking about 3 ways to solve problems. I can focus on 2 ways to let's focus on 2 ways first. So we talk about a combination of data and algorithms, right? So data are ways where you can use data and you can solve problems in data. But before we even get to that, when you start to develop code and you start to build tools and stuff like that, a lot of things that you take for granted, you do not think too much about that. But let me show you an example of what I mean by that. Okay, so suppose I have an issue. Suppose let's talk about solving problems using the algorithms way. Okay, suppose I have a very simple code that you guys have seen it a lot. I'm gonna just import time it because I'm gonna time the function. I'm gonna see a simple task range, and this is just a range of figures. I don't even I just punch a bunch of 0 in there, right? And then I'm gonna say create a set. You've seen this set before. If you've done any kind of Python code, you've probably seen this before. So I don't even know how many 0 is that, but I'm just gonna create a bunch of that, and I'm gonna create a set out of that. And then once that is done, I'm also going to create a list. A list is something so common in Python. If you have done any kind of work in Python, you would see a list. It's kind of like an array in JavaScript, for example. So once it's done, it's still trying to hold on to all of that information. Still a lot of that. If it's too much, I'll probably deal down a little bit. It's probably too much. It's probably too much. So cancel that. That range is way too much, and my memory is trying to keep up with that, and it's not doing that. So let me discard all the memory. Let me start a new terminal. Yeah, okay, look, it's gonna take too long. I'm just gonna open up another one and just to do it from there so that you don't have to keep waiting for it. Okay, so I'm gonna zoom in. I'm gonna open up Python just like we have always done. Zoom in. Oh, this is 2.7. I don't want that. I actually want to use a specific version of Python 3.9 because it's it's the modern version of Python. Okay, so we're gonna do the same thing now. I'm just gonna put a test range again. I'm gonna first import my time it because I need to time my code, and I'm gonna say test range, and this is basically just a range of how many values, just a couple of 0, doesn't matter. And then from there, I'm gonna say test set, create a set, and my set is just gonna be set, and that would be this amount, whatever that amount would be. I also don't know how many 0 is that, but it's probably lesser than the first time I punch it in. So hopefully this is gonna be faster. And once it's done, I'm going to put a test list. And these figures are huge, so that's why it's taking like a while just to even get that. I want to talk about a fundamental issue about when you don't think about range and list and set and stuff, you think that they're pretty much they're not very different, right? When somebody said I can use a range or I can use a set or I can use a list, a lot of times to a lot of developers, they are very interchangeable. You're like, oh, how could that be such a big difference? You say, okay, now I'm going to put the same figure in there. I'm going to create a list. Now these are again going to take a while, but I want to show you why does things work so differently when you use a set versus when you use a list versus when you use a range. So let me show you the first example. I'm going to do a simple example. I'm going to say, find me this number. So I'm going to say, find this number. Does the number 500,000, maybe 5 million, does this number exist in the range? So again, this range is 0, 1, 2, 3, all the way up to this amount. I don't even know what that amount is. I'm just punching a bunch of 0. But I want to say, within this range, can you find this amount in it, right? So how do you do a find in? You use an in operator. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and say time it, and we're gonna say, can we find, let's say 5 million? Can we find that in test set? And I'm gonna just store this to T1 or T set because that's the time of the set. And do that for 10 times. And I'm gonna say find it in the globals like that. Oops. Okay, don't need this one. Let me, okay, right, like that. So what this code is doing is that it's gonna say, hey, look into this set. Can you find this number within this set? Again, it will find the number because it has to go all the way from 1 all the way up to this amount, right? And I want to show you this example because it shows you just how fundamentally all these things that you take for granted about, like, hey, if I use a list, I can use a set. Like if I use a set, I can use a list. Maybe some of the more intermediate Python developers will be able to answer the question, what is the difference between set and list? Some would say, okay, I think set has some sort of unique constraint. In a set, I cannot have a duplicate value, but list, I can have multiple duplicate value. But apart from that, is there a lot of other difference? Let's take a look. Let's see if there's a lot more difference than that, right? I'm going to say T set. I'm going to say T list now. And now I'm going to say test list. So again, the same example, but now I'm saying that time it and give me the list. Finally, I said, take that, put in the range, and I said, find the T range. Okay, again, find it if you found the answer, then paste it. Now I want to show you T set, and I want to show you T list. Just to show you how much larger that is, because you probably don't understand. This is 10 to the power of -5. Okay, but just to show how big that figure, the difference is. Something so fundamental. 46,000 times slower. So the search, a simple find operation using a list is how many times slower? 46,000 times slower than with a set. Now, have you ever stopped there and wondered, like, why, how, right? Have you ever thought about that? But let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and do another one, T range. How many times slower is that? 300,000 times slower. Why is that, right? So these are questions that if you want to take your, I mean, there are questions just now, some of you asked, like, if I want to improve my programming skills, I want to be better than what I am, how do I go about things like that? So these are things that are very, very key, and these are things that are very foundational, because every time you open up NumPy, every time you do a data science work, there is 99% chance that you are going to deal with a range or a list or a set. You, at the minimum, you're going to use a list. That's a very fundamental part of using Python and the data structures in Python, right? But have you thought about why the kind of difference here? This is not 1.88, okay? This is 1.88 times 10 to the power of -0.05. This is what it means, E05. So this is actually really, really, really small. This is E 0.000000 and then 18859 all the way down, okay? So this is, set is a lot faster than the T list. But why? So that's the question I want to have you think about. And now I'm going to show you my slides and maybe talk about why that is important. I wish some of this I have more time to maybe talk about that, but I'm already at 9:15 and I want to make sure I have enough time for questions and stuff. So I'm probably not going to give you all of the information now. So let me just see what I can do, and I'll try and get there. So we've seen how to solve problems using data. We've seen, like, pedagogy is one way to use data to solve problems. We use data, we visualize that, we abstract the data so that human can make decisions about quantifying human performance, quantifying staff performance, and then saying that, okay, well, certain instructors can do really well in long workshops. Sam, for example, he can do workshops for 9 hours and he will still get pretty high ratings. People are still very happy. And all of these are anonymous ratings. But compare that to, let's say, Aurelia, she's better at doing short workshops and her attention span start to fall off and this and that. And you can start to measure those kind of performance and quantify them. We've seen those things. But is there another way to solve problems? Yes, data, right? So instead of using algorithms, so we've seen how to solve problems using data. Another philosophical approach to problem solving is from the lens of algorithms. I show you that a simple example of search. I say, can you do a simple search for this within a list? So here I'm using a list. I say 2, 4, 6, 8, 11, 13. Can you find the value of 8? If it's your function should return true or false. If it's true, then 8 is within the list, right? That's one way. Another way to use algorithms to solve for this kind of problems, This is probably a little bit, this is kind of what I was just saying, like why is it this, why is that faster? Why is set faster and stuff? We talk about that. I don't have time to go into all of these methods, but what I want to talk about is that Liz and all of these guys, they implement their own contains function. Just like at the beginning of the workshop, I told you everything that you take for granted, somebody implement that for you. So when you do something like an in, what it's doing is that it's going through contains. If you cannot find contains, you use iter. Iter stands for iteration. You iterate through. What it means is that you first check, hey, is this 8? No, it's a 2. So move on. Is this 8? No, it's a 4. Move on. Is this 6? Is this 8? No, it's a 6. Move on. And then is this 8? Yes. Then it found. Then it returned true. That means it found it. This is really, really slow because this is scanning through from the top to the bottom. Okay, this is really, really slow. This is called a linear search, meaning the time to take it is potentially up to O of n. So if your list goes up to 1,000, then it needs to do, it potentially needs to scan 1,000 different items in order to find that exact thing. Okay, so is there another way to solve this? Just I'll show you one example. Is there another way to solve this? Yes, another one is to solve this using binary search. So binary search basically, instead of can you guys see my annotation if I were to draw here? Can you see it? I hope you can. I think you. Oh, okay, you can. All right. So another way to solve it is to say that, okay, what if I just take the 2468 and I split it? And so a binary tree, for example, what it does is that it says the 6-digit here. What if I just do a 7, right? And here it goes to the left. Here it goes to the right. And on the right, what do you have? You have 8, 11, 13. And on the left, what do you have? You have 2, 4, 6. So if first search for this, it says, hey, what are you trying to search for? Oh, you're trying to search for 8. Okay, is 8 bigger? Is this greater or lesser? Well, it's greater. It's greater than 7. So what does it do? It go to the right. And then once it's in here, it looks at 8, 11, 13. And again, take the middle value. It says 11. Is this greater or is 8 greater than 11 or lesser than 11? Oh, it's lower. So it goes to the left. And then it says, is this 8? Yes, it's 8. So it found it. Now, this is a very trivial example, but in the massive 1 million data stuff, it speeds up a lot. And this is kind of the fundamentals of all the search. You see like Google, for example, and all that stuff. Everything that you see on like Google and like when you type in Algoritma and you see Google surfacing that. Remember, Google has a very enormous task actually. Google have to scrape and crawl millions and millions and millions of new websites every single week, right? Every single day, new websites come up and new websites go. And Google have to take that and Google have to return the result to you in seconds. Every time you search Algoritma, oh, here's the first result. And how does it do that? It uses something that is built on top of binary search. And why is binary search so fast? It partitions a collection of elements into 2 halves, and then it discards 1 half in the search space. So every iteration, it discards half of the search space. It says, first of all, in a massive list, is it greater or lower? If it's greater, then discard the half on the left. If it's lower, discard the half on the right. And then it only look at that area. Oh, is it greater or half? And then it discard. So every step, it quickly discard half of the search space, it shrink it down, and then you can solve it. How would that code look like in Python? Luckily, I wrote this out because I was about to do it live demo, but now I think I'm very pressed for time, so I'm just gonna show you the code here. But this is how you write it, right? You say search if length is 0, that means there is nothing to search for because this is what you want to search for. 2468, there's length of 4. But if there's nothing to search for, you return false. Then you partition by half. You say take the length and then divide that by 2. So that's the middle point. If it's greater, do a binary search. So recursively do it. If not, there's so many ways to write this. There's at least 5 different ways to write a binary search algorithm. This is one of those ways. If you are interested in writing the 4 other ways, you can come talk to me after the workshop. I can teach you how to do that. But here, the important point again is not to force yourself into the syntax. The important things to remember is that if you want to build good products, good solutions and stuff, you need to learn how to solve problems using data and using algorithms. So how do you combine this with what you just learned? You combine them using contains. So just like how at the beginning of the workshop, I teach you how to implement your own functions when you create an object, you do the same thing, except you implement your own contains. So now anyone who is using a package would thank you for it because your package is working a lot faster when you need to search for things. So that's another example of that. So when we see examples of using data-oriented and algorithm-oriented approaches to solve problem solving, when we block out all the noise and we block out all the hype, because there's a lot of noise and there's a lot of hype, and I understand that. But when we take out all of that, what data scientists really do is to apply problem-solving lenses, either using data, using algorithm, using one of those, borrowing liberally from mathematics to business problems. That's what it is, right? At the fundamental of it, you can't just learn how to do machine learning and I call it a day. I don't, that I'm good enough. When you take away all the hype, that's what it really is to understand things, know how to solve problems from a data angle, from a algorithm angle. Initially, I talk about another one, use the graph approach, but I don't have time to talk about that. But if you heard about Dijkstra algorithm, that's also one approach, right? So I would leave it with maybe the last thing here to say, I suppose it's tempting if the only tool you have is a hammer to treat everything as if it were nail. So don't shoebox yourself into thinking that I only know Shiny, so I'm gonna throw Shiny at everything. I only know Python, so I'm gonna throw Python at everything. I would say like take one step further, be a bit more long-term in how you plan and develop and build tools and stuff. And finally, what do you do after this workshop? There's a lot of things you can do. One is to take the email network example, build an email network that's following the guide that you get from Aurelia. So you can follow it step by step and find your closest peers. You may be surprised with the results. You may think that, hey, every day I go to work, I know who I email. And then you look at your graph and like, hey, actually it doesn't look like I talk enough to this guy. And it doesn't look like anyone talked to him enough. And you may reach out to your peers and stuff. So maybe do that, right? And by the way, how do we build email network? I'm using exactly the same tools, exactly the same kind of, the same kind of concepts that I taught you. So I represent email instead of representing this as employer, I'm representing email. So all of these are emails. And then within emails, I have things like header, I have things like, things like body, and I represent them. And then date, I represent that as date. But I use exactly the same methodology that I taught you. I just implement that to the space of email. The code is open source. You can go and take a look at it if you want to. Finally, I would say like these are places you can find me. I would also leave a link to Aurelia and Duina's accounts if you want, or maybe you guys can leave it directly in the comments in the chat. If you want to connect with any one of the speakers, this is where you can find us. This is where you can find me. I don't do a lot of teaching anymore. I think maybe 3 times per year. I'm too busy running a lot of other things. I'm doing so many other things apart from what I'm committed to. So I probably won't see you very often, but if you want to ask me questions and stuff like that, these are places you can find me. There is also, I think there is also, before I let you go, there is also like all these questions that I think there are not a lot of questions left. Do you think startup would be built around data science? What industry do you think? Yeah, I think these are questions I can answer. But before I do that, Maggie, do you have like some of the last stuff you want to talk about? You want to?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Sam. Nah, Bapak Ibu, ini saya ambil alih sebentar ya. Jadi terima kasih untuk Sam, lalu juga tadi ada Mbak Duina dan Mbak Aurel juga yang sudah mengisi. Tapi pastinya salam kenal, saya Maggie Logan dari Algoritma, dan Bapak Ibu terima kasih nih untuk waktunya ya, sudah menyempatkan Friday night untuk bisa ikutan sharing session pada hari ini. Nah, tanpa perlu berlama-lama, jadi misalkan Bapak Ibu merasa wah tertarik nih sama HR Analytics, terus pengen belajar lebih lagi, bisa pengen coba deh bikin project nyata yang disambungin sama data perusahaan saya, misalkan seperti itu, kita ada yang terbaru yang akan launching ini di bulan November. Nah, ini saya izin share screen ya, yaitu People Analytics Course namanya Bapak Ibu. Nah, ini adalah selama 51 jam belajar ya, interactive learning via online, dan akan ada 5 HR use cases yang menjadi output dari pelatihan People Analytics Course ini. Nah, outputnya apa aja sih Mbak Maggie? Jadi macam-macam sekali Bapak Ibu ya, jadi mulai dari mengenal alat bantu, tools olah datanya, terus juga bikin reporting yang dinamis, membuat dashboard, sampai nanti ada predictive analytics juga, dan pastinya ada capstone project. Nah, ada beberapa pilihan capstone project yang nanti Bapak Ibu bisa pilih yang disesuaikan sama data di perusahaannya. Nah, saya rasa itu aja. Kalau misalnya penasaran sama info lebih lanjutnya, boleh ditanyakan masing-masing ke PIC-nya Algoritma. Ya, jadi Bapak Ibu kan di WA ya sama tim algoritma, mungkin sama aku atau mungkin sama Mbak Isna, Mbak Yesi, Mas Dimas, Mbak Anas. Nah, nanti boleh ditanyakan. Aku rasa cukup untuk dari aku, Sam. Thank you.
Right. So, okay, let's go with the last set of questions. I have 2 more questions I didn't really cover yet, but maybe just for a more general sense of things. I want to say that, right, if you're trying to build tools and stuff, you have no good guidelines and stuff, go and look for somebody, look for a peer learning group, go and join the Algoritma community, go and join, surround yourself with people who can help you with that. So I'll give you like a few places that you can also find me on top of all the things I just mentioned. You can find me on all the places there. You can also go into this group. I'm a moderator in that group. So if you ask me questions and stuff like that, you can also get help from these places. The other thing I would say is, if you are trying to build something and you are quite close to launching and you need some sort of support, you need somebody to sort of take a look at that, give you some feedback, help you tune it a bit, and then maybe promote it. You can come and reach out to me. I'll be happy to promote your work. I'll be happy to promote it doesn't matter if you're not a student. It doesn't matter to me, right? You don't have to feel like, oh, but I'm not a student. It doesn't matter. If you need some help, you need some sort of, you say that I've done all this work, I have no connection, because like Duina was saying about connection, I don't have that connection. Can I find somewhere where I can leverage on somebody's platform? You can come and talk to me. I can share your work on my social medias. I can share your work to my connections and stuff. If you truly build something useful, I'll do what I can, right, to help you get the publicity that you need and to help you kickstart it and to help you get launched. And finally, is that since this is a HR event, if you are also at the point where you're looking for opportunities and stuff, and you have a good portfolio, you can also email me. You can also, I'll give you my email. I don't know. I think you guys probably already seen my email. You can also reach me on GitHub or LinkedIn, up to you. But you can come and reach out to me. And I run 2 companies. I run Algoritma. I don't really run it. My CEO runs it. Nayoko, which actually is the boss. But I have a lot of authority over hiring. So if you feel like there are, if you feel like, hey, I'm at the point where I want to take this a little bit further and stuff, you can come and take a look at what we do at Algoritma and Algoritma, and take a look at what we do there, and take a look at what we do here, or maybe this one. And if it interests you and stuff like that, come and email me with your portfolio. Show me, what you can do. Show me what, what is your own development plan for yourself, and I can find something that fits you. I can find something that works for you, right? So that's kind of it. If you want to go, that's it. But anyone who's asked question and I haven't answered them, you can take the chance now. I think I don't know if it's possible. Maggie, do you know, or Isna, do you know if it's possible to unmute everyone? So anyone can just unmute yourself and just ask questions and stuff. So you don't have to, don't have to go through this Menti thingy. I don't know. But if you can just unmute yourself, you can ask yourself. If not, you can just put your question in there. I'll unmute you. You can ask your question. But yeah, till then, farewell to everyone else. Those of you who have questions I haven't answered, I'll do that right now. Okay, so yeah, go and have your, I don't know, dinner or something. Some of you, I haven't had mine, but okay. So question number one. Question number one, right? I would like to ask about the future of data science. We say that data science will. I fundamentally don't believe that. I feel like, if anything, if you look at the trend of data, I talked about the Excel example earlier. I said that 25 years ago, Excel was created. That time, Excel was perfect for what it's created for, because 100% of data back then was row and column. So row and column meaning it's a tabular format. There's Excel, there's row, there's columns. 100% of data was row and column. And so when Excel was created, it was perfect for the job. Perfect. Okay, so when university starts teaching people how to use Excel and stuff like that, it was doing the right thing. But today, if you take a step back and you look at the data that is around you, right, less than 50% of data is actually, I think right now the figure is probably less than 40 or less than 30% of data is actually row and column. So what am I saying is that more than 70% of data is not row and column. More than 70% of data are data like what? Like images, like computer vision, like videos, like NLP, natural speech. When you use Siri and you tell Siri to find you a near location or find you a nice restaurant, that's data. When you walk into a shopping mall and the CCTV picks that up, that's data. Okay, you may not consider them as data, but they are data. Okay, all of these data doesn't fit in a row and column format. All of these are a new wave of data explosion. Okay, JSON data, XML data, API data, right? Computer vision data, videos, images, speech, text, all of these are data. We just don't think of them as data. But you look at the kind of future that we are stepping into. It's very scary if we continue to teach, Excel and spreadsheet to the rest, to the following generation, assuming that this is going to be the norm. It's not. Very quickly you're gonna be, very quickly you're gonna be out of your depth if you stick to the old tools that was created 25 years ago. It's not up to speed with what the modern reality of work is. It's very different. So if anything, I think in the next 10, 20 years, if you learn data science, you'll be very well set. You'll be very well set. It doesn't matter if you want to be a data scientist. Just like when you learn spreadsheet, you don't try to be a spreadsheet scientist. Nobody learn Excel because I want to be a spreadsheet scientist. No, you learn Excel, why? You learn spreadsheet, why? Because it makes you a lot more effective in whatever you're doing. This is the kind of mental attitude, right? If you look at companies like BetJR, for example, they hired so many people. BetJR alone has hundreds and hundreds of people who actually write R code and Python code right now, sitting right now at Wisma BetJR right now, in the sleepy office. But pretty much none of them call themselves data scientists. So why are they learning R and Python? And we know this firsthand because I've been training BetJR for 4 years now. They've been a client for us for a long, long time now. So I can tell you this, right? Very quickly, if you're a banker, you're competing with bankers who have the kind of skill sets you don't have. And guess who's going to get hired? They are going to get hired, right? Marketing managers. Today, you want to perform some sort of, you run some sort of marketing campaign. You want to know if the campaign is effective or not. What do? Sentiment analysis. You want to see if I launch a new campaign, I use BTS, Korean K-pop. You want to see whether people react to that nicely or not on YouTube, because you run a big campaign, you spend a lot of money, K-pop wave. So BTS was running there. People leave comments, oh, lucu kok, keren banget. How do you analyze the sentiment? Data science. So if you're a marketing manager and you do not know how to analyze sentiment analysis and stuff like that, and you propose campaign without any idea of how to actually quantify your performance, who's going to be out of the job? You, right? So I feel like I think a lot of schools are trying to advertise like, oh, learn data science to be a data scientist. I think that's a wrong approach. I think that's a wrong. If you look at iklan, yeah, and you look at campaigns and like learn data science to be a data, I think that's a wrong. That's kind of like saying like learn spreadsheet to be a spreadsheet scientist. It's wrong. It's kind of like saying learn English to be an English translator. It's wrong. You learn English, why? Because it doesn't matter what jobs you do, learning English. By the way, English is not my first language. I don't actually learn English first. That's not my first language. It's not my mother tongue. But learning English adds so much to whatever you can be making, adds so much to your earning potential. It adds so much to your employability. You know what I mean? It cuts across any industry. It doesn't matter if you're CEO, HR manager, learning English just adds so much value to your job. And that's what I'm saying. Data science adds so much value. It's not for people who want to be data scientists or anything like that. So that's kind of this is a very long-winded answer to your question, but that's kind of how I think about that. So I don't think you need to fear about automation and stuff. I think you want to grab it by the neck and actually do it before, and do it slightly ahead of the curve. And right now is a good time to get into it. And there's so many free resources. Go online, go and look at Algoritma, go and look at Belajar Apa, go and look at all these other platforms that are out there. Whatever school, pick a school, find the instructor's profile, look at the instructor's profile, make a good decision, and then go and sign up and then commit yourself to it. That's what I recommend you do. And this is also in a way answering the first question. Hi, do you think that future startup would be built around data science? That's what I just said. Yeah, so that's what I just said. I said, like it's something that would cut across every industry. It's data science is not because I want to be. If you want to work in e-commerce, you better be learning data science. You want to work in Gojek, Tokopedia, you want to work in banking, better learn data science. You want to work in investing, VC and stuff like that, better start with data science. If you want to do stock trading, better start from data science, right? It's something that is like English. No matter where you go, no matter where you end up at, English is just such a nice fabric of skills that cuts across all these layers of industries. And I think that's a good investment. So yeah, go and do that. Last question, is there any guideline on how to scale your package? Write tests. That's the most important thing I would say. If you look at how I created the email network, I'll show you the code. I don't know if you even here, if you're asking this question, but that you're not staying up to now, you probably won't get the answer here. But for those of you who did stay, what we did, right, to scale everything, to make sure everything is good, I'll show you my actions even. Every time somebody commit a new feature to GitHub, I automatically run a build. To do what? To check for all the tests. So basically, if you look at my workflow, I have this flow here that This is on GitHub Actions. You can click on this and you can see what's happening here. Where's my chat? Here. This is what I mean here. So I use a lot of this kind of automation flow. So what happens is that when you write a new piece of code, so later on Aurelia is going to try and add some new features too. In fact, actually we added a few more features. I just don't have the time to show you, but I just added the name entity recognition. So I can automatically detect the first name, the last name, the office and stuff. So if your email body says, I don't know if you want to see it right now. If you have time, I can show it to you. But if you don't, that's fine. Because it's also quite late and I don't want to take too long on this. But if you guys need to go, you should go. You know, I don't want to hold you up here. But find email network. Okay, that's my city email network list. Okay, I'm gonna just do a simple one to show you Python work on email network, and I'm gonna say Python email ner.py. So I built. There are a few more features we launched, but every time somebody build a feature, what do? We set up a job to run install Python, test all the packages, and let me show you how comprehensive our tests are, just so you know just how much tests we did. So if we look into email network, for example, and we look at the tests, these are all the tests, right? If I look at the extract, this is what we did. So we set up all the tests. We said that every time somebody did something, we test all of this feature. We say set it up, check whether or not this is it, and we run all these tests automatically. Because if any of these tests fail, we reject the feature. So you can be adding a cool feature, but if you cannot pass the test, we reject the feature. So that's a tool that you can use. These are tools that you can use, right? And these are, and I link that into actions. So I said every time somebody push a feature in here, run all of these bunch of things, run the jobs, and in the jobs, you see what I do as well is I test against Python 3.7, 3.8, 3.9. And this is so nice because I don't have to manually install all these different versions of Python. All I do is that, hey, every time somebody push a feature, go ahead and run this job. Take the job, install Python 3.7, test against all the tests I wrote. If it passed, add the feature in. Then I can merge the pull request. Then do the same thing for 3.8. And then do the same thing for 3.9. So that's how I can guarantee that kind of scalability. I can make sure that as I continue to add new packages and stuff like that, the package continue to stay strong because all the supports are there. And when I told people that you can use 3.7, I guarantee it can work. Why? Because I run the test, right? And then later on, what you do is you embed yourself into community, you explain about your tool, you write good documentation. People like Aurelia, for example, very precious part of the community because they write tutorials to help people understand that. I didn't write any of the tutorial. It was all completely her work, right? I wrote the package for you, I developed it, but she wrote all the documentation so that people can understand how to use it and can get value out of it. So these are all, I mean, part of that. But I mean, I can give you a more elaborated answer on that, but probably run out of time already. So that is kind of, that is that. But I've answered all the questions so far on Mentimeter. Is there anything that you want to cover? I think I can take one last question and then I need to go. So maybe one last, if it's a short answer, then last two questions. No questions? Okay, right. If there's no question, then yeah, it's been a pleasure to have you guys here with me, and I hope that thank you so much. I know it's a Friday evening. Must be hard for a lot of us to, you want to do all kind of things. Any HR use cases that's often asked by business. I think mainly HR basically concerned with what? Hiring, retention, which is retaining, and development. Those are the three main functions. Whatever you do, you have to optimize towards that one of the objective. That's one of the three use cases. You have to make hiring faster, easier, cheaper, make retention a lot more achievable. How do you help employees retain themselves? How do you build tools that bring employee engagement? That's also another feature. Development, how do you train people? Build tools like Mau Belajar Apa, for example, is a good tool, right? People can learn skills and stuff, and then you sell to HR. But no matter what it is, these are the, I think, three. No matter what it is, these are the three main KPIs for HR. So you want to build anything, you start from that three things. I think I'm kind of copying answers from Duina because she said about that already. But anyway, yeah, that's how I would think about HR use cases. Okay, so it's been a pleasure. I hope I'll see you again sometime soon. Come and connect with me anywhere you find me. Have a good weekend, everyone, and hope to see you again sometime soon. Bye.